Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
What has being annoying stopped you ever?
That's an excellent point. Right. An excellent point. That's part of the charm.
Rich Craich.
And I'm allowed to be a work rate nerd for the G1. I just want them to have great matches and kill themselves. I don't care. It's not my body. I just want to watch great matches.
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm delightful. I am delightful, Joe. Another day on this planet, another Thursday talking to you. Can't complain, right?
That sounded sarcastic.
I didn't mean it to sound as sarcastic as it came across. I do actually mean that. I've enjoyed doing the show.
Another day talking to you.
I said another Thursday, not another day. I'd be more than happy to talk to you every single day, but it's a Thursday.
All right, let's do it. Quit that fucking job.
You're right. Fuck it. Yeah, let's do
rolling.
it. Except Raw. I'm not doing Raw. We talked about that last week. Not doing Raw, but yeah.
Okay. Deal. Let's go.
Gets closer every day. I'm telling you that. I will say that it is getting closer to reality.
Tell that boss to take this job and shove it.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice to do one of those. Because ideally, it's not like I'm trying to get another job in the industry. Ideally, I'm trying to get completely out of it. You know what I mean? And do my own thing. So it allows for the possibility of a very big, hey, hit the fucking bricks. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You can go to hell. You can go to hell. This, it does lead itself to a lot of that. Will I do that? I probably not. It's not my personality, but hey, we'll see. See what happens,
Do you get health insurance through the job?
Not anymore, Joe. I switched to the nurse's insurance. So
no, well, geez, this is an easy decision.
Well, hold on a minute. That might have been a reason why. No, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So.
I was gonna say. It's not as expensive as you think. Get a decent plan, $200-300 a month, but you don't need it anyway.
No, I'm good. I got the nurse's insurance, and honestly, it doesn't even help anyway. I never go to the doctor, and when I do go, the billing gets fucked up, and I have to call insurance companies for months on end to get it fixed.
I just opened a can of worms here.
Right,
a can of worms here.
A little bit. That's what I was doing earlier today, so I don't really want to talk about insurance companies right now. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, fuckers. It's not. I don't know if it's. To be fair, I don't. Well, no, it is kind of their damn fault. No, fuck them. Yeah.
So what happens? You're covered, but then they bill you anyway?
Well, they bill me anyway. And there's this thing that they have now. This is exciting. Welcome to the Flagship Podcast, where we talk about insurance billing.
That's right.
Start the show off with discussions of Rich's foibles with insurance billing. A very a real out of nowhere, discussion here. Hey, yeah, about these insurance companies. Am I right? You ever heard about that? You've been seeing this? So what happens is there's this weird thing that's called, I guess, coordination of benefits is this new thing that they're big on. And the idea is that they keep asking, do I have other health insurance? And I don't. I only have their health insurance. But they want to see, and they keep asking, do you have another health plan so that we can bill half of this to the other health plan, then we only have to pay half of it. And I'm like, no, you pay all of it because you're my insurance. And they just want to know that you don't have another health plan. And I have told them now, I believe 6 times, I don't have another health plan. Can you guys pay this bill? And then by the time that it comes to for them to say, oh, we've confirmed you do not have another health plan. Thank you. We will get ready to pay this bill. It comes back, and then they want me to redo this. And I've been in this limbo for like 6 months at this point. So now, obviously, the companies that are billing the insurance and are sending me bills are saying, hey, what the hell's going on here? And I have to call the Blue Cross Blue Shield and say, hey, I don't have other insurance. Can you guys pay these bills? And then we're in limbo and going round and round and round in circles. And essentially, 6 months later, no one's paying anything, and everyone's just like, well, they have to do this. And the other side says, no, they have to do this. And then they say, well, you have to do this. And I don't know what to do. So
I just wouldn't go to the doctor.
And that's kind of, I don't usually go. And then this year I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the doctor because I have good health insurance now. And this is what you're supposed to do as an adult male at my age. And my blood pressure's a little high. I should probably go and get that checked up. And it has been nothing but trouble ever since. And all it has done is probably raise my blood pressure higher than it was before I went to the fucking doctor. So, probably just going to never go to the doctor again.
Yeah. Sounds like too much.
So I don't need health insurance anyway. I don't need it anyway. I'm just going to not go to the doctor ever.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the problem here is in your house, you're the phone call person.
Oh, God, yes. Well, to be fair to the FKA, the nurse, she's kind of a nurse these days, but not really. She does a lot of office work these days. So,
yeah, but
not a healthcare hero in the same way.
house...
Well, but she calls insurance companies all day on behalf of her patients. So I can't really come home and say, hey, Toots, slap her on the butt and go, hey, can you call Blue Cross for me? Thanks. I'm going to be sitting on the couch watching the Bulls while you call their insurance company. So, yes, I am unfortunately the insurance caller guy, although we both are.
But it sounds like she's an expert in calling insurance companies and would probably get more progress done quicker than you do.
You're probably
That's
right.
How I'd sell it to her.
But guess what? I've broached the subject and she said, fuck you. No, you call them. I call them all day. So
she knows the ins and outs and what to say. She knows the insider lingo, So it seems like she should be the one calling the insurance company.
You're right.
Listen, Rich, everything in life is a negotiation. Okay?
That one seems like a tough one. That seems like a tough one.
No, you gotta finesse it. You gotta figure out a way. You give me 15 minutes with her, she'll be calling that insurance company.
Maybe
I'll take care of this for you.
I'll send you her number. Yeah, actually, I'll give it to you right now. You're on the air. You got it. You got a pen and paper near you. You got your official The Notebook.
Listen,
notebook.
Everyone else, put your fingers in your ears and don't listen for the next 10 seconds. Go ahead, Rich. Read the number.
6. No,
you got to know how to finesse it. Everything's a negotiation. Now, in my house, I'm not the phone call person. My wife's the phone call person. I will pay all the bills. I will cook all the meals. I will handle everything in the kitchen. The one thing I don't like doing is making the phone calls. So she's the phone call person. I never have to call anybody. Oh, we need a plumber. She makes the call. Oh, we need someone for this. She makes the call. There's a problem with this. She's the phone call. It's great. What you got to figure out is how to make her the phone call person. It takes a lot of pressure off, and then you can sit back and just fucking watch wrestling all day when you have a phone call person in the house.
When you got a in-home secretary to handle all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, when you see, now I can see where you don't get anywhere with her because you word things that way. That,
you gas TLB up. You're better at the phone calls. People like
that's
you.
right.
Well, when we anytime we order food, I always have her call because I'm like, people like you. I'm just gruff, deep voice male that's gonna be like, hey, we need to order this. It's gonna work a lot better. If you're there to charm them a little bit. But
yeah, you see what I tell her is I'm like, look, everybody hates a Jersey accent, so nobody wants to talk. to
Yeah, that's true.
So
and you're calling like a lot of Texas-based places, I'm sure as well.
Right.
So the plumber doesn't want to hear from Jersey Joe. He wants to hear from,
That's right. And so, it's all in the sell and you're just not selling this well. I could tell it's that sarcastic millennial sense of humor you got. It's not working in this scenario. You got to finesse her better than, I want my own personal secretary. Well, how do you think she's going to react to that, Rich? She's going to say, fuck you. You call the insurance company, which is exactly what she tells you. Come on, man. Jeez.
You want to call? I can give you Blue Cross's number if you want.
I don't want to call you.
Okay,
what I just say, I'm not the phone call person.
I think they need to hear from Jersey Joe, actually, though. That's what I'm saying.
There's times where you got to get a little Jersey on people. I think
the problem is I've been too nice. I think it's time for Jersey Joe to get in and
you're probably too nice. Yeah, you're probably too nice. See, you save all your sarcasm for your wife.
Yes.
Which is why she tells you to, go fuck a pole, and you're too nice on the phone when you should be a little more sassy. So you got to bring out that secretly sassy side of Craich when you're on the phone with the insurance people to get this shit done. Just keep asking for a supervisor, no matter who they put on the phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just be like, listen, Jill. It doesn't even matter if her name's Jill. Just say, listen, Jill. Yeah, just call her Jill. Say, listen, Jill. I yesterday I spoke to Frank, and quite honestly, I think I need to speak to a supervisor again today. And that'll rattle them. You got to go up the chain of commands here to get this done. These aren't your bills. You shouldn't be paying these bills.
No, but
honestly, it should be her making the call, because this is like
it's her insurance. Is what I said. Hey, I'm on your.
It's her insurance. Well, see, again, that's the wrong approach. See, you're confrontational when you're approaching her. This is no way to butter it up. You're telling her, "Oh, well, it's your insurance, and I'd love to have a secretary of my own around here." Well, that's not going to work, man. I could see the problem already. This is a mess. You know what? I don't even think I can help you wiggle out of this one. I don't think there's anything I could say to her.
I think I dug a hole too deep with both Blue Cross and the nurse. So, yeah, I think it's over. That's all right. Just
don't go to the doctor.
I'm just not going to go to the doctor and not pay these bills.
Just wait till you're actually sick when you have to go. It's like, see, you thought it would be cute to just go for like, oh, I'm going to go get a checkup.
I went very European, very Canadian. I was like, I'm going to do preventative care. My blood pressure is getting close to a point where it could be dangerous. I should go to the doctor and figure out what I can do about this. And what did it do? Nothing. So I'm going to wait till I have a massive heart attack or stroke and have to go to the ER and solve it like an American solves it by neglecting their health until it's probably too late, and then just going to the ER dying. So.
Yeah, I don't go for nothing. Like a year ago, though, it's funny. I thought I had a problem with
you got your supple neck checkups, though.
I got my supple neck. About a year ago, though, I thought I had a problem with my gimmick. I couldn't have went faster. I had an appointment that my wife couldn't believe with the speed that I made the appointment.
You were a phone guy that day?
All of a sudden, I was a phone guy. You wouldn't believe the speed I got over to that doctor's office when I thought I had a problem with my gimmick. Like that, I was like the fucking Flash to get over to that doctor's office. But I could have chest pains for 4 days, and I'm like, it'll pass, no problem.
You couldn't talk for 2 weeks, and finally after
remember when I couldn't
speak? The beginning of week 3, you were like, maybe I should go see what's going on with this not having a voice thing that I have going on right now. So
now I did go to the doctor for that, to be fair, and
it took a little while.
Yeah, I went for that. They told me I went for that with the one because the doctor told me not to speak for a week. Remember?
Yeah, but I think you were not going well for a couple of days, or at least a week. It was not good until maybe you were more proactive about that one. I don't remember.
Yeah, that one I did go for.
Your voice is how you're getting paid, and the gimmick is important too. So I get it. Voice and the gimmick are probably the two most important things for you.
The utmost importance, absolutely. Jeez.
Without your voice and without your gimmick, man, you what do you got for the world?
What's left, really?
Yeah, right. Somebody in the chat room says this would be a good time for the Blue Chew coupon code. Yeah, you hearing this, Blue Chew?
Well, we're still waiting.
Said I would, podcast provider said, hey, you guys interested in getting sponsored by Blue Chew? And I was like, fuck yeah, we are. Let's do it.
Yeah, they've been back in the game. I noticed them on some other podcasts lately.
Mm-hmm.
They went away for a while, but
yeah,
now they're back. We had some other fucking dick pills at some point, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not going to say the name of but we did.
No, don't say the name.
No,
don't say the name. No free ads.
Well, I mean, they paid at the point, but they haven't paid since. Like, they're not sponsoring us actively.
We had somebody. Oh, I remember the company now.
Yeah.
I remember the company now. Yeah. They didn't send the samples, though. Does Blue Chew?
No, I said I was going to. I've always said I want the samples of all these.
No, they didn't send them.
Because they're always weird about the dick pill samples. Like if you want like a food delivery service, they're like, "Oh, we'll send you samples, no problem, whatever." And then there's like, and then this insert the company here that sponsored us. They were like, "Well, very unlikely that they're going to send you samples if you would want them anyway." And I'm like, "Well, please send us the samples. Let's find out. Like, I want to see how these things work. Let's go." So I was like, both me and my co-host Joe, we would love to sample some of your products. So
yes,
and they were very like, oh well, that's not typical among our sponsors. I was like, well, make it typical for us, man. Let's do this. Let me see what these things do. But they didn't do it.
That's the kind of attitude you have to have with the insurance company,
right? The I want to be sent dick pills by this random advertiser energy. That's what I need to have with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan for sure. Anyway.
The unnamed insurance company that's terrible.
Oh no, I've named them very, very publicly now. I should go to the. Remember when people used to like tweet at like major or airlines? They always used to be like the indie wrestlers, like at Delta.
Yeah.
What the heck's going on? It's like some rube at the Delta Twitter account. I'd be like, hello, Moose. I'm very sorry about the issues that you're having. Dash like BD at the end of it or whatever, because the guy's name is
so
like
sorry,
Brandon.
the Necro Butcher. Tell us more about your incident. Yeah.
I don't think they do that anymore, right? They've definitely given up on checking their X account. I'd imagine. Maybe they're still doing that. I don't know. But yeah, it used to be funny. Like every week it'd be some indie wrestler being like, this is the last time I fly with at American Airlines. It's,
Yeah.
There's
Please
like
send us a
airlines.
DM at
where are you going to go?
Big Swole. Please send us a DM.
Right.
Just, an auto response.
Yeah. It would always have like, it would have the name because like the guy would put, or the guy or whoever was manning the count would have like a dash with their like initials on it or whatever.
Right.
It'd be like dash RK or whatever. Be like, I'm terribly sorry about your issues. But
yeah, that's
DM
a
me so we can find out more
work.
about your flight troubles or whatever. And it's like, I guess
people
it works.
do that they do it to restaurants too.
Yeah.
They'll send a picture of their salad, and you call this a salad at fucking Schlossky's? You call this a salad? Only one tomato. What do you think's going to happen here? You really need the coupon for the free salad that bad because you had one tomato in your salad? What goes through the mind of the people who do this? Like, what's the goal? Is the goal the free salad? They want to get another salad?
All right, Joe, shut up about the salads. We got some breaking news here. You ready?
Uh-oh. This must be important.
This
if
is
you're
very
breaking
important.
up.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up about your salad. From the desk of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kazuchika Okada to leave New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Wow, what perfect timing.
Kazuchika Okada will be leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling after the conclusion of his contract on January 31st, 2024. We apologize to fans for the abrupt nature of this announcement, but join them in wishing Okada the very best in his future. As the New Beginning series begins this weekend, Okada will appear on February dates on February 11th in Osaka, February 23rd and 24th in Sapporo. Changes will be made to forthcoming cards with an announcement to follow. Okada has a statement here. It says, I have nothing but gratitude for having been a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling since 2007 and for New Japan bringing me from a 19-year-old kid off a plane in Mexico to the Rainmaker I am today. Thank you to the best of companies in New Japan Pro Wrestling, to the best of opponents that I've been able to face here, and to the best of fans that have cheered and booed over the years. I promise to make it rain in every match I have left, so keep watching.
So,
wow.
We're ripping up the format sheet here, huh?
We are, yes.
So, I have to say, would this be related to this news that, well, not news, but this little bit that surfaced today? How about this Tony Khan tweet? And I quote, "It's going to be an amazing 2024 at AEW." Didn't we talk last week when Tony starts getting sassy on Twitter? He's got something up his sleeve.
It's usually when he's got something. When he's puffy chested is when he's Tweeter Tony the most.
Got something up his sleeve. So I don't know. That could be what Tony's got cooking.
Big. That is big, man. So you're talking Battle in the Valley, which we just saw was Will Ospreay getting the hugs, getting the thank you, Will, do the speech. Thank you, New Japan, for everything. And his opponent on that night was Okada, who then, 7 days later or whatever, posts, thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm out as well. That's a bit of a 1-2 punch. to lose there. And we've talked about in the past of, those many, many years ago when Nakamura left and AJ left and Carl Anderson left and all those guys, and we were talking about, I guess, Gallows too, but to a lesser extent, Luke Gallows. But, we talked about that time how they were ready. They had that next crop of guys ready to go. They had Kenny Omega rearing to just take that spot right away and take it to higher levels, and they did. And they had the opportunity to bring Okada up even further and just say, all right, Nakamura's great, and we're going to miss him, but boom, this guy's ready to become the top dude, like the bona fide top guy in the company. Tanahashi's still here. He's still thriving. Naito's still here. He's still thriving. Like, we got all these guys. Man, you look at this New Japan roster, where it is right now, and it's like, whew.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Who's ready?
They got that next week. Well, I don't. They're not ready tomorrow.
That next wave is not ready.
Not tomorrow.
No.
But they've got the ball rolling on.
That ball should have been rolled, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
2023 was a year to get that ball really rolling. I think they got
Wasn't it though? Wasn't it though?
I don't know. What did Wrestle Kingdom show us about
That wasn't great. That wasn't great. Nobody took a big step at Wrestle Kingdom. That's for sure. But they've got their crop that clearly they think, Yota Tsuji, Yuya Uemura, Shota Umino, those three predominantly. I don't throw Ren Narita in there right now. He seems to have fallen behind.
Nah, he's out. He's out. Yeah.
He's fallen behind. Yeah, we have to. You can't throw him in there right now. So, you got that crop that they've gotten the ball rolling on those guys. Do I think any of them are ready? Now, here's the thing. You can flip the switch on one and pick one and see what happens, because look at the guy we're talking about. He comes in, they just immediately flip the switch, and the rest is history. So, who's to say if you don't just pick one of these guys, pick your favorite, Yuya Uemura, let's say, and you just rocket pack them that it doesn't catch on. It might or might not. Now, it's a risk, because if it doesn't catch on, you could set the guy back years and maybe just kill him for good. For people seeing them at that level. What you can't do now is maybe slow roll these guys the way you were slow rolling them before. Now, there was speculation that Okada, when he hired Barry Bloom, or allegedly hired Barry Bloom, and then Obari stepped down, that maybe Okada was just throwing his weight around because he didn't like Obari.
Mm-hmm. Tanahashi got appointed as president and all that sort of stuff.
Right. So the idea was maybe, okay, now he's done bluffing, because he got, it's Magic Johnson getting, Paul Westhead fired or whatever. But this is that obviously now wasn't the case. So the question is, who's giving him the bag? Is it WWE or is it Tony Khan? Those are the only two options. I mean, there's no other option. It's obviously one or the other. I could see both being interested. Both have been interested at times. WWE showed interest, what was it, a year or two ago?
They showed initial interest back in, 2016 or whatever. And then I don't know if that was actual serious interest, and I don't think he had any serious thoughts about going there, but I know that they invited him to some event. I forget what it was. It was SummerSlam or something like that he went to and was at live. And at least, in the Observer, they said, they're looking at Okada, or they're interested in Okada. But then, yeah, it was like a year or two ago again when that stuff started to pop up again.
Yeah. I mean, it would, now my DMs are blowing up. It would be, I don't know. Early rumors have him going to WWE.
Wow. Okay.
These are just rumors. This is just people telling people stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Maybe Khan knows that too, and he's just some of his tweets and
could
his
be
nonsense
back against the wall, Tony, too, because sometimes that does
brave
happen
face,
as well.
brave face.
Yeah.
Maybe Okada wants to cash out and make the big bag, and WWE made the best offer. I don't know, because he seems to have friends in AEW, and it's obvious that the people who run AEW are fond of him. So maybe it just came down to a money offer, or maybe it came down to, just working on the absolute biggest stage during the back half of his career as he's into his mid-30s here, and knowing, okay, well, it's now or never if I want to do that. So interesting, because it kind of, the story kind of went away when Tanahashi took over the president job. So it obviously, everyone kind of, maybe the New Japan fans maybe got complacent thinking that the story was going away when it really wasn't.
Right. And the idea was maybe that like this was being done for Okada to kind of posture, and maybe it was being done to sort of be the last ditch effort for him too. Maybe he wasn't saying, I want this to happen and this to happen and this to happen. Maybe the company was like, hey, we should do this, this, and this, because that will make him happy. And ultimately then he was just like, still, I'm gone. Thank you though. I appreciate getting Omari out of there, and I appreciate, this, and this or whatever. But there's 2 bags over there that I'd rather go take. So I'm going to take one of those 2 over there and try it out. But wow, that is that's a big story. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when these rumors were first starting to kind of bubble up and the Barry Bloom stuff was starting to happen. I mean, this is the biggest, guy leaving Japan to go to America in still his semi-prime, and probably go to America to be pushed as a tippy top guy. Now, as far as how well does that go, who the hell knows? You know what I mean? Like we have no clue what that's going to look like or whatever, but
well, if it's AEW, he'll be a tippy top guy.
Yeah, right.
If it's WWE, I have more confidence it would be as a top guy without Vince McMahon running the company.
Absolutely.
So, but still, the way that they do things and the fact that he's not going to be able to promo the way they want him to promo, I'm still not super confident he'll be a tippy top guy. Now, Nakamura left in 16, right? The same time, early 16. So that would be 7 years ago, also the age of 36. So they're both, he's leaving. They both at the age of 36 made the decision to leave, Nakamura and Okada, because that's the comp. That's your comp right there.
Yeah, that's your nearest comp. January of 2016 for Nakamura.
Yeah, when he was 36, and Okada is 36. And he's leaving in February of 2024, I guess 8 years later. So Nakamura would have been 35. Okay, so 35 for Nakamura, 36 for Okada. And Nakamura, you look at his run, main eventer in NXT. In this current environment, there's no way they would send Okada to NXT. That's not going to happen. And then a sometimes occasional main eventer on the main roster who is also occasionally just completely lost in the shuffle in the mid card, and you forget that he's there. And, if at the time people thought Nakamura had the perfect kind of charisma for WWE, like if there was one guy in Japan who people thought could make it in WWE, a lot of people would have picked Nakamura based on his charisma.
Right.
And, and the way that, his crowd connection and all of that. And to an extent, they were right. I mean, I think, he hasn't always worked the hardest in WWE. He didn't always work the hardest in New Japan. I mean, effort was always, you don't know what you're going to get on a given night with Nakamura, even going back to his New Japan days. And he's kind of back in the top mix now as a heel working with Cody.
I think it's been more good than bad with Nakamura in WWE in terms
maybe,
of,
but he's disappeared for really long stretches
really
where they did absolutely nothing with him.
Yeah, the NXT run was pretty damn good, and then the early WWE the main roster run was pretty good. And then what kind of happened is we got the where he was just hitting guys in the nuts. You know what I mean? That was his gimmick for a year, was guy who hits guys in the nuts thing or whatever. And yeah, he was in main event and he was doing, pretty prominent stuff. But then after that, you're right. Then he kind of disappeared for a little bit until, what was it, a couple months ago, where now he's popped up again and is in, main event picture doing the stuff with Cody or whatever. So I don't know. I would say all in all, it's probably been better than I expected. Even under Vince, I think it was better than expected, but certainly not like someone like Okada. You would have higher hopes for this guy.
I mean, Nakamura won a Royal Rumble, and he feuded with AJ Styles over whatever version of the world title it was at that time. He hasn't won any versions of their world title, just the NXT title. He did pop the one big house with Sami Zayn, and that was 100% their match that popped that house in Dallas. And then it's been a lot of secondary titles, intercontinental titles, US titles, tag team titles, things like that. The other difference, though, is if Okada were to land there, he's coming in a much, much bigger star than Nakamura was when he came in.
Right, exactly.
And Nakamura was a pretty significant star. But Okada has far eclipsed the level of star that Nakamura ever was in Japan. In fact, Okada surpassed Nakamura while they were both still there.
Right.
He surpassed him.
With none of the stink of failure that Nakamura had during that first half of his career in Japan, where, people kind of look fondly on the last couple of years or whatever, but those who were following, New Japan or following Japanese wrestling before that would know that this guy was like just a complete, absolute, total failure for almost a decade before he goes to CMLL and recreates himself and comes in as the figure that everybody knows and loves or whatever. So you're talking about a guy with Okada who has none of that stink, has never really had any of that stink other than his first match. The Wrestle Kingdom match with Yoshihashi is essentially the stink, and everything else after that is top level stuff. And yeah, he's in a pantheon of very, very few Japanese wrestlers of all time, really. I mean, you can absolutely put him on that list with your Kobashis and your Misawas and your Inokis and your Shinya Hashimoto's and your those tippy top. He's in that mix, right? I don't know how many guys you want to put in that mix, that top upper echelon, but he's one of those dudes. You know what I mean? Like he's and Nakamura never really was. I mean, for all the good that Nakamura did bring and how fun Nakamura was or whatever, he's not in that pantheon. But Okada is in that pantheon in terms of what he was able to do, the business that he moved, the main events, the titles, the matches, everything. I mean, he is, simply put, he's one of the biggest stars in Japanese wrestling history, and now he's leaving.
Yeah. You have to wonder, with this news breaking and the benefit of hindsight, if the way he was pushed in New Japan in 2023, if they knew, if he told them, hey, look, this is it, I'm not re-signing, because he was downcycled pretty hard into, the trios titles and out of the, world title mix. So now you have to view everything through a different lens. It's possible that they knew all along and also knew that, look, it's going to be a much different year next year. We got to shake things up. We got to get, what's a better public relations move if you're losing your biggest star than to insert Tanahashi as the president, right? And it's not like things were going so hot for them anyway, as they were, in a rebuilding phase. So I don't know. Something is telling me that they knew. When you look back and look at how he was booked over the course of the year, he really was de-emphasized. So, there's that aspect.
Imagine this came as a complete surprise. I mean, they're in their press release, they're talking about, a little bit about how surprised they are, but you have to imagine that, and I guess that's probably the way that most business is done in that country, and I'm assuming Okada did things in the right way, and probably, maybe in no uncertain terms, just kind of said, well, we'll see. Or maybe he didn't say, hey, I'm bouncing or I'm leaving, but, kind of just said, I'm exploring other options. And they took that as, oh, shit. And knowing where they're at in their business right now, where the yen is right now, that, if there's a big money offer in America for him, and that looks like, again, we're saying this right now without knowing, but that's where he's going. He's going somewhere in America. It's WWE or AEW. Yeah, I think that they probably know that even if he was like, I want to look and explore stuff elsewhere, they probably knew right then and there that they were dead to rights, because they just can't compete financially with what WWE or AEW could do.
No, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. New Japan's in a position now where, it's where, for a long time there was no AEW, and WWE wasn't all that interested in their wrestlers. So they kind of had, it was a whole different scenario. Now they're in a scenario where there's heavy interest in their wrestlers from WWE with Vince out of there. You don't have to be a specific kind of wrestler for them to be interested. They just want stars. And you have another billionaire who is very clearly interested in their wrestlers as well. So, and they're going to lose people, any kind of gaijin that they turn into a star, like the level of Ospreay, they're going to lose almost instantly. And Ospreay is a different kind of guy. He stayed for 8 years when he didn't necessarily have to. These other guys, they're gone the second that, one of these other companies makes the call.
Ospreay's a rare breed too. He's a very weird breed in terms of that. From day one, he's kind of been anti-WWE and anti, major, wrestling. And like, obviously AEW has probably catered enough to him or doing enough that makes him. But this is a guy that, talked to him in 2016 and there was no chance in hell he was going to sign anywhere else. And he just wanted to be in New Japan. He just wanted to wrestle all over the world and be this traveling, superstar that we've seen him be up until AEW then presents this opportunity that he now can no longer refuse and basically goes, okay, yeah, that I'm at the point of my life now where that's what I should do. But like you said, he's a one of one. How many other guys is Clark Connors going to say, no, I don't care about money. I care about getting in the ring and plying my craft and being able to wrestle all over the world? No, he doesn't care. Like those guys don't. Ospreay is a very, very weird breed in terms of that he is such a nerd for wrestling that he would rather wrestle all over the world in front of whoever. It doesn't matter as long as he can wrestle and do his art in front of whoever he wants to do it in front of, then, take a big contract with a big time company or whatever. A lot of other guys are not that way. Like you said, almost every other gaijin is going to immediately take the bag if presented with it.
Yeah, Ospreay's a guy who cares deeply about the art of pro wrestling, and not all pro wrestlers are like that, even though more pro wrestlers are like that now than ever. He's different in that regard, but that's my point. You're not going to have a chance to cultivate these foreigners into massive stars like you did for him. And now it's to the point where you may not even be able to keep your own guys. I mean, there's always going to be some native talent that are never going to go for a variety of reasons. They don't want to live in another country, or, so there's always going to be that, but there's always that threat now, and now it's coming from two different sides, and the money they just cannot match. And that's really what it's always going to come down to. They can't match the money for these top stars anymore. There's also, we know WWE has been dying to stick their beak into Japan. And, what better way to do that now if they did sign Okada? You come into Japan with Okada. And now that's a statement, on top of all the other Japanese stars that they've signed over the last few years. You're coming in with arguably the biggest one, on top of Nakamura, on top of Io Shirai, on top of Asuka, on top of, you go right down Kairi Sane and toss Akira Tozawa in. And, now you're really coming in with impactful stars that are going to get people's attention in Japan. So if that could be a big piece of this too. So there's just a million different branches to a story like this. But yeah, obviously it's an enormous loss for New Japan. And the more I think about it, one that they probably saw coming. When you really start to really look at how he was booked and how the last year played out, and hiring the agent a couple of months ago. And I mean, they had to know at that point, once he hired an American agent who's known as the top pro wrestling agent in the game, he's not sticking around. So, and I would think that Okada didn't just, drop this on them like a bomb today. I feel like they probably have known that this is coming. But I guess we'll find out as more details emerge.
Yeah, wow. So again, if you're just jumping in right now, New Japan officially announced Kazuchika Okada leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling at the end of the month. He is still going to wrestle on their February shows, but that will be it for him in New Japan, which is, just a massive story out of New Japan Pro Wrestling and out of Japanese wrestling in general. I mean, this is, it probably speaks to some larger things that we've kind of talked about, at length a little bit. I know Open the Voice Gate, those guys, Mike Spears and Case Lowe, obviously on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, have talked about for a very long time that a lot of people, Super J-Cast have obviously talked about this a lot, Joel and Damon, about people are just not quite understanding how not healthy the wrestling business is in Japan right now. It's just not a healthy business at all. and COVID obviously did not help things at all. But it's just it's just not in a good place at all. And this is even the industry leader, the quote unquote industry leader, in New Japan Pro Wrestling, is struggling and having issues and can't pay, and have made pretty significant cutbacks in terms of who they pay and how much they pay them and what they pay them and all that sort of stuff. So that this is hopefully now the Band-Aid getting ripped off, so people can really kind of have an honest, earnest discussion about this and go, yeah, what the hell is going on with Japanese wrestling right now? What is the state of Japanese wrestling right now? Because it's not good. It is not good at all. And yeah, this is even, the top company struggling to, hold on to its top talent is pretty shocking. And I think, in terms of other parts of this as well, is it also kind of represents that all the effort in getting New Japan Pro Wrestling to become a global company and getting Japanese wrestling to be more accepted by the larger wrestling world is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is you can go to San Jose and sell 2,000 plus tickets. You can go to Chicago in April and sell maybe 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 tickets, depending on how many they open up. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you also now have put a spotlight on your company, that now these new companies and both AEW and WWE say, oh, well, this is a tangible market now that we can go after. These wrestlers are known commodities in America now, and now they can kind of come and poach in a way that they, nobody in WWE was really looking to poach New Japan Pro Wrestling guys in 2002, maybe Kenzo Suzuki, or whatever, but not actually. Whereas now, because of a lot of the work that New Japan has done, like I said, the blessing and the curse is that New Japan is able to draw in America and be, go to the UK, and it's a global brand and whatnot. But the downside of that is that you can get poached. And now these bigger wrestling companies are saying, oh, cool, we can grab this guy and put him on our TV, and most of the fans are going to know who this guy is. So a lot of the work is done. Thank you guys for doing the hard work. Now we're going to go sign this guy and present him as a big star. And that kind of,
yeah,
it's a good thing they did that, and I'm glad they did that, and it made, Japanese wrestling more accepted globally, by a lot of people. But the downside of that is that now you're right for the picking.
All right, so Meltzer just tweeted that he gave his notice on Thursday night, which means that goes against everything I just speculated on, and that he did drop it on him like a bomb. Or he could have told him that he was mulling this, and
it was just a formality that Thursday is when I have to
the
tell
official, you. Right, the official, yeah, I'm definitely not coming back, came tonight. What time is it in Japan right now?
In Japan,
it's Friday morning, right?
Yeah, because it was dated for tomorrow. This,
right. Yeah.
This like a couple hours ago that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because it's 11 a.m. right now in Japan. It's 11 a.m. on Friday.
It's 11 a.m. in Japan. Meltzer is saying Okada gave his notice last night in Japan.
Okay. Because when you said Thursday, I was like, that was a long time ago. That's not, that was a week ago or whatever.
No. That's today. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's today. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
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 So the early chatter, and remember, we do this show live. The early chatter amongst some wrestlers is that it's WWE. But that doesn't, how much is that worth? Next to nothing. But that's the early chatter.
Yeah.
So, we'll wait. Obviously, Meltzer's working on something. Sapp says he's working on something. I've got some messages out. We'll see if we get anything while we're on the air. But I guess that rips up the format sheet. I guess we start with Battle in the Valley now.
I suppose we do. Yeah.
How can we not?
That match has a much bigger connotation now than it did. Yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff on this week's show. We're going to, hopefully, time permitting, we were going to try to get to some stuff in CMLL, Osaka Pro, Big Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll see if we can get there.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Contract season updates. I guess we can roll that into a later segment after we're done talking about New Japan. But, hey, we got another thing to add. I put here in the show notes, this has been a pretty wild contract/free agent season for wrestling, and we'll update you on the latest movements. Well, we just did, and now there's even more crazy things going on. FSM 50, we'll talk about the annual FSM 50 list that we published at voicesofwrestling.com. Joe and I are both on the panel that vote on the list, so we'll touch on that. We'll also review TNA's Hard to Kill pay-per-view. TNA is officially back. Big debuts there. Nic Nemeth. Ash by Elegance debuted as well, and a new TNA World Champion and a bunch of other big title changes up and down that card. But yeah, I guess New Japan Battle in the Valley is how we're going to have to start here. San Jose Civic Center in San Jose. Last weekend, they got 2,147 fans in the building for Battle in the Valley, which I thought was a pretty fun show. Not a great show, but at least had a few really, really fun matches on it, and two matches that I thought really did rock. But yeah, I guess let's start with the main event, because Okada defeated Will Ospreay. And this was a big, monumental moment because Ospreay lost, and then, he embraced Okada, gave the big hug. Both guys were kind of emotional afterwards. Ospreay was clearly crying. I don't recall if Okada was crying as much as just kind of, hugging him tightly or whatever, but it was kind of Ospreay's send-off, for lack of a better term, and with the announcers saying, okay, well, he's going to do this cage match in February, and then that's it for him in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then he's done and finishing up or whatever. So, yeah, little did we know that was also one of the final times a lot of people see Okada in a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring. So that match takes on a little bit more of a connotation now. But what'd you think of Okada and Ospreay? And then we'll talk about the show itself, I think.
Didn't they say he's doing his February dates?
He's doing all the February dates. Yeah. For fans in America, though, I think that's pretty well.
Is he booked for Chicago? I don't even know.
I don't think he was, and well,
that's Naito and Moxley.
Yeah, I think that's all that's announced. Well, and then Ali and let's see what they got right now.
Hiromu.
Yeah, I was trying to see if they had anything else. I know they had Ali and Hiromu and Naito and Mox. I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it for that show.
Oh, so okay, Okada will appear on February dates on February 11th in Osaka and February 23rd and 24th in Sapporo. Changes will be made to forthcoming cards with announcements to follow. He's only working those 3 dates.
Yeah.
Wow, he's not even honoring all his dates. Because those cards were announced.
Yeah, let me see which ones he was announced for, because I don't know if he was on any of the Fantastica Mania stuff. I know that Cubs had actually, let me see, because Cubs fan had the...
no, I'm talking the New Beginning Tour.
Yeah, because he had a few more of those, right? Right.
Yeah, and, it says he's working February 11th in Osaka, and he's working the 2 Sapporo shows.
Okay.
But what's the third New Beginning? Is it Nagoya? What's the
no,
third
I think
one?
that's it, though. No, so that's all the New Beginnings. That's New Beginning in Osaka, and then the 2 in Sapporo, and that's it.
Are you sure about that? I thought there was... Hold on, let me take a look at this.
As far as the actual... There's a lot of... there's a couple Road 2s that had some interesting matches on them or whatever, but as far as the major New Beginning shows, yeah, it was the 11th.
Oh, Nagoya on the 20th.
Ah.
It's Nagoya, it's Osaka, and it's Sapporo. And he was booked for Nagoya, and that's what I'm saying.
Sorry, I was looking in February. I forgot about the January one. Yeah.
He's booked in Nagoya in 2 days, and they say, according to that release, he's not working that because they're announcing card changes.
Right.
And by the way,
he was in an 8-man tag for that match or that show.
Yeah. He's working all these shows. He's booked on all these shows. And now he's working the 11th. What's that match? That's the 6-man title where they're going to lose, obviously. Right? So
I think, is my bookie taking action on that one? Because I think I want to get in on
right?
that one. Yeah. Before they take that one.
Although
down.
you never know. You know what? Someone of his stature could win, and he might just relinquish the title.
Right.
I
if you want to put a couple units on TMDK, go say Fujita, Mad Mikey Nichols, and Shane Hayes, that might not be the worst. Not be the worst investment, but so I think they're losing that one.
His matches for Sapporo aren't announced yet, but the release says he's working those shows.
Okay.
So he's working the 2 Sapporo shows and the 6-man title match in Osaka. That's it, because they said there's card changes being announced. So forget everything I said before.
Well, actually, here, one thing, though, real quick. I'm wondering if what they're saying about those February ones are only because they say his contract's done on the 31st. So they wouldn't necessarily... He's still beholden to his contract for the rest of January. That's why you wouldn't have to say the Nagoya thing. You wouldn't have to say any of the other things. But starting in February, now he's no longer under contract, but he is still...
Oh, you're right.
So
he might work Nagoya. He might work Nagoya. You're right.
Right, he'll work Nagoya because he's still technically under contract through the end of the month. But by the end of the month, he's no longer under contract, but he is still going to appear on... So he won't be on any of the Road 2 shows or any of that shit in February, but he's at least going to show up for Osaka and the 2 Sapporo shows.
You're 100% right. You just unwound it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so. I was just kind of. We're all trying to work this. We're all figuring this out on the
air. He'll. This is what live radio is like. So he will work through the 31st because he's under contract, which means he'll work in 2 days in Nagoya.
Right. They don't need to say that he's going to be there then because he's still technically under contract and adhered to the date.
So this is a notice to people who have tickets in February. It says, I'll read it right to you. As the New Beginning series begins this weekend, Okada will appear on February dates on February 11th in Osaka and February 23rd and 24th in Sapporo. Changes will be made to forthcoming cards with an announcement to follow. You're right. He's going to work everything through January because he has to, because he's contractually obligated to do it. And in February, he's giving them the 11th, the 23rd, and the 24th. You're absolutely right. So, any of these Korakuen shows or whatnot that he was scheduled to work, like the Korakuen shows on the 5th, for example, 8-man tag with Tanahashi, Makabe, and Ishii. He's probably not working any of these other New Beginning shows in February. Based on that wording, he isn't, because it says there's card changes coming. So, and then he'd finish up in Sapporo because that's the end of the tour. Mm-hmm. He's going to work the 23rd, the 24th, and that's it. Adios. Because they don't come back until the anniversary show on the 6th. And that'll be that.
I'm trying to see if he was announced for any of the we could have maybe figured this out a couple hours ago, if he was on any of the Fantastica Mania shows. I know Cubs Fan had that, the cards of all those. He does not appear like he was on any of them. So maybe that would have been a good
barometer of how late in the game this came.
Right.
Well,
if he was announced on all those, then it's like, wow, that was really late. But he, as far as I can tell, and it's possible he just wasn't going to work that tour or whatever. But
of course. Yeah. Usually he works one or two of them.
Yeah, he does not appear that he's on any of these. So one sec, you people might hear a large ding as I search. Yep, he was not announced on any of them. So.
Yeah.
So they probably knew at least when they released the Fantastica Mania cards, whenever that was. But
I have breaking news.
All right, what do you got?
I have confirmation from a direct New Japan source that it was not set in stone until Thursday afternoon Japan time. So there you go. That's from New Japan.
So they're under the impression that not under the impression, it was set in stone pretty. So okay, that's interesting right there.
Okada informed them yesterday afternoon that he would not be renewing his contract.
Okay.
And I guess they waited until the morning time in Japan next day to announce it. I guess because it would hit late morning in Japan and at a decent time here.
Right.
Is when they announced it. So, you want me to ask about these February cards?
Yeah, why not? While you got them, you may as well. We got some questions we gotta get answered here. So, wow, yeah. If you got the line, let's. These are what moments are like this are for. So get that word out, man. Yeah, this is wild. This is wild. It's I know there's a lot of people that are gonna be really upset and depressed about this, but I don't own any of these companies, so I think it's kind of fun. Makes wrestling kind of interesting, I'm not paid by
I mean, look, I have no interest in him in WWE.
Oh God, yeah. No, I mean that should go without saying. I don't have to really clarify that.
There's a morbid curiosity of watching that coin drop and seeing him making his entrance. But then once he's fully embedded into that company, I'm not going to be interested in that. I mean, this idea that now that it's Triple H in charge, I still don't enjoy what they do. So, I don't have any interest in him and watching him wrestle there. We've seen him in AEW. Obviously I would prefer him to land there because I'd rather watch him work in that environment and work with the people they have rather than work in that, because I just don't like WWE. I don't like the way they present their product. So my preference obviously would be AEW. Although the fact of the matter is, and we talked about this with Nakajima, I'm not real hot on the idea of them getting free agents these days either.
No.
I mean, because I don't have a total confidence in their booking when it comes to some of these big stars either. Like, obviously, Will Ospreay, if he's leaving New Japan, I was pleased that he ended up in AEW versus ending up in WWE. That's the better of the two options, without question, for my sensibilities. But, because it means I feel like they're going to push Will Ospreay. Him, I'm confident they're going to push. And obviously he'll be allowed to work elsewhere. But some of these other guys, like the Nakajima example.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't have any confidence that if he were to land in AEW, that they're going to push him in a way that I'm going to enjoy. I feel like he's the kind of guy that'll like never be on TV. Right? Then you get that impression like he's one of these guys we'll never see, or it's like. But if the option is WWE, it's AEW all day. I mean, that's not even a debate. That's not even a debate.
Just the capacity to have better matches, the capacity to be in better spots, the capacity to be
work other places, the freedom to work other places, all those things. Whereas WWE, these guys go there, they can end up in a feud with like LA Knights. I don't care about that. On top of all the other presentation issues and all the other reason that I have distaste for that company. Anyway, Battle in the Valley. And obviously we'll jump in with stuff with Okada as the night moves along. Battle in the Valley, Rich, we have to start here before we even talk about the main event. This show drew 2,147 fans. Okay. Last year's show, where they announced Sasha Banks and we all gave her credit for drawing that nice house, drew 2,152 fans. A difference of 5 tickets. So what's the reality here? Because one of these two things are true. Okay. One, Sasha Banks did not help New Japan draw above and beyond what they're capable of drawing anyway, because they drew the same exact house the next year. Or two, Will Ospreay being in the main event had the same drawing power as Sasha Banks did last year, because the show that he headlined, and remember, she didn't technically headline last year. That was Okada versus Tanahashi. Okay. But we'll grant that she was the drawing card on the show because all the tickets moved after they announced her and everything else. So, but you have to admit that one of these two things are true. Either she didn't draw above and beyond what the company is capable of in San Jose, or the Will Ospreay Okada match was just as strong of a draw as Sasha Banks. So which is it, Rich? It has to be one or the other, right?
It does kind of have to be one or the other. Yeah, I don't know. I would say that I think the rest of the year probably pointed more towards Sasha not necessarily being the draw that we kind of all thought or assumed that she would be, or that she was on WWE television. I think, obviously a lot of the tickets moved for that show, and it's really hard to tell because obviously the injury happened or whatever. But, after that show, which seemed like a pretty decent number, but I recall us at the time being like, I kind of thought it'd be a little more, you know what I mean? A little, it was a nice bump, and it was a nice, momentum after they announced her, but I kind of thought it would be a bit more of a sensation than it was, and it really wasn't. And then it kind of just petered out after that. And then obviously she gets hurt. So it's probably more the Sasha is not as big of a ticket moving draw as maybe we assumed she was going to be or thought she was going to be, more so than this show, which I thought this show didn't have a ton of buzz. It obviously had Okada and Ospreay and Moxley and Shingo and, some other stuff up and down the card that was pretty solid. But I don't know that this show really felt supremely hot on like the VOW buzzometer that we always used to talk about or whatever. I didn't feel this was a hot ticket or a hot show or whatever until it obviously came up this weekend. And for it to sell roughly the same amount of tickets as last year's show, I think probably speaks to a little bit of maybe the Sasha thing wasn't what we thought it was going to be last year.
Well, I mean, could it be if there were more tickets available, Sasha would have ultimately sold more tickets than this show?
I don't know.
How can we know the answer?
Do we remember what that building was set up for her? Let me see if I can get that actually real quick, because I think that might be.
It was every available ticket. I know that.
Okay.
So was this one. So, I mean, they did the same exact number, Rich.
Yeah.
So one of those two things have to be true.
Yeah.
So This leads me to this. As everyone seems to think she's leaning AEW or that WWE is out on her. Which, look, we've talked about it before. There's been rumblings out of that company that they simply don't see her as valuable as Charlotte or Becky. We've had that conversation here. Okay? They see it that way.
Right. I disagree, but that's how they see it internally.
I disagree too. They see it that way. Which is crazy when Sasha was on SmackDown with Roman during the Bloodline and outdrawing Roman. Now, that was pre-Sami Zayn heating the Bloodline up. But those are facts. You can look them up. When they were on the same brand and the Bloodline was underway, Sasha's weeks would outperform the weeks without Sasha, and Sasha's quarters would outperform Roman's quarters. Same show, same company, same brand, everything. For whatever reason, they don't value her as much as they value Charlotte or Becky. Becky, I can kind of understand. Becky has a verifiable drawing record. Charlotte does not. Charlotte has no drawing record.
Anti-draw
Charlotte,
record in many cases.
Yeah, Charlotte has. Someone point me to the Charlotte drawing record. She does not have one. Becky Lynch, you can say that for however length of time you want to say that it was the biggest star in American wrestling. Is that fair?
Yes.
We just talked about this during Hall of Fame. Now, some people make that a longer period of time than others, but everyone pretty much agrees with it. That at a certain point, Becky Lynch was the hottest wrestler in American wrestling. Charlotte never was. Charlotte was never the ratings draw that Sasha was. But for whatever reason, that company never valued Sasha. They don't think Sasha's as valuable as either one of them. And both of them have enormous contracts and will continue to top each other for the biggest contract in company history on the women's side. So perhaps Sasha was put off by the idea that she's not getting Charlotte's money. Right? And maybe that's why WWE's out, because they, that's my speculation. But here's my thing with Sasha. She's expensive as hell, obviously. She's going to cost you millions to lock. Now, I'm talking AEW. It's going to cost millions of dollars to lock her up. She cannot promo. It was rough. Go back and watch the New Japan, the Bushi Road era promos.
Okay.
Starting with the awkward Wrestle Kingdom debut, which did not work, and all of her promos. She cannot promo. She's getting older, and she's only going to become, and she's already slight of build, so she's only going to be more injury prone from here on out. That's just any athlete. And she didn't exactly knock it out of the park from a business perspective on the Bushi Road run. In fact, all told, now that it's in the rear view, if she was being paid in the neighborhood that we think she was being paid, that I was told she was being paid, I'd call that run a bust.
Oh,
I would. I'd call it a bust.
ROI-wise? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, that's a bust. I mean, in terms of...
They get their money back on that.
Oh, hell no. No way. Not even close did they make their money back on that.
And a year later, they're selling just as many tickets for the same show.
Yeah.
If this show here with Okada and Ospreay on top had done, I don't know, 1,400
fans.
Say
1,500 or whatever is a good, okay. Yeah, there you go. There's a tangible difference that, paying Sasha X amount of money was worth because you sold double the tickets. And you could then safely assume, hey, shit, had she not gotten hurt, there's a lot more of those houses, in the future and for the rest of the year or whatever, that they weren't able to kind of pounce on or whatever. But yeah, now that you look at this, it's like, all right, well.
Battle in the Valley 2021, 1,548 fans. So, if it does that, but it didn't. It did the same number it did last year. I mean, I don't think she set the world on fire for Bushi Road for that 4 or 5 match deal, whatever it was. So, but here's the thing. With all of that said, Tony has to win that one for perception. Because that's now Okada's out there too, but the next big free agent after Will Ospreay was Sasha. And he's got to win that one for perception. These big free agents, you have to win them. And, I'm not so certain how she'll perform there. I'm very concerned about her promos if she ends up in AEW. because she really strikes me as someone who is going to struggle. And believe me, look, let's be honest. She wasn't Dusty Rhodes on the mic with WWE with the scripted promos either.
No, but yeah, it seems hard to believe that she's going to be the person that can be backstage and look at the camera and talk about her upcoming opponent or whatever and make you excited for a match or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that might just not be her vibe. And that's the AEW promo is like Renee will say something and then you turn to the camera, look at the camera, and you cut the promo yourself. Yeah, you're not relying on any
your own words,
right,
your own ideas, and then you have to deliver them as well. It's a different environment. No one's handing you what to say. And look, I'm not saying that Tony shouldn't sign her. He has to sign her. But, you know, I would have some concerns with that. You have to have it for the perception win. You know, but from there, I don't know. And the other thing about these WWE hardcores is they turn on these people if they turn on them. Sasha will become the enemy to these people if she signs with AEW. So then really, what kind of value are you getting out of it from that standpoint? From, you know what I mean? Like a lot of her fans are going to turn on her and not want to see her there anyway. So I don't know. I don't know how hot I am on the idea of her coming in at this point for, you know, a few different reasons that I just laid out. I don't know how that's going to work out.
The ROI is definitely something that you have to think about with her because she's going to come with a pretty penny as she deserves, and as she's, you know, is more than willing and more than, you know, able to offer and ask for or whatever I should say. But yeah, from a perception standpoint, you kind of have to do it, but it's probably a bad deal the second you sign it. One of those, you know what I mean? That happens in sports all the time. You have to sign your player because you got to sign him. You can't let him go, you know? But a lot of times you're like,
right.
You sign it,
Sometimes
you immediately know it's a bad
corner.
deal. Like you immediately know this is a bad deal. And the Bulls, you know, had to sign Zach LaVine last offseason. They could have let him go, but the PR disaster if you just let your top guy go without signing him sucks. But the second he signed the deal, everybody said, yeah, that's a terrible contract. That guy's not worth that deal, but you're stuck in between this rock and a hard place. And that's kind of where AEW would be with you know, Mercedes is like, you don't want to lose that battle, but the second you sign the deal, it's probably not a good deal.
It's not. Here's the bottom line. She's expensive. She can't promo. She's fragile, and she did not draw like a superstar with Bushi Road. Am I telling any lies?
No.
I mean, did she come across like a huge star with
Not
Bushi
at all.
Road?
No. Remember, we talked about that Wrestle
did
Kingdom.
not.
You and I came out of that instant reaction of Wrestle Kingdom when we went, oh, well, that was probably hopefully just an off day. And then she did the backstage promos, and we said, oh, it's a really, really off day. Okay. And yeah, I don't know that at any point it really ever felt. The Kyrie match was probably the lone exception where it was like, okay, she feels like a star. She looks like a star. She's wrestling like a star. This is it. This is what the idealized version is. But that's, man, other than that one match, I don't know that I saw it other times.
That was a great match. I didn't think any of the other matches were great matches.
I agree.
They were good. There were some good matches. Look, she worked Long Beach. That show drew 2,900. And that was built around the Strong Women's Tournament, which is built around her, and Will Ospreay versus Tanahashi. And look, 2,900 is a really good house for New Japan in America. You know, it drew more than San Jose did, you know, with the larger building. So look, I'm not saying that she wasn't a draw at all, but I don't think they got what people were expecting they were going to get at. Now, this
some people might listen to this conversation and go like, "Oh my God, you guys are being way too hard." But she comes at a very, very. It's coming from the standpoint of being sports fans. You know, we're talking about what the contract is and what the production is. You know what I mean? It's if you just go by production, everyone's gonna say, "Well, she got hurt," and okay, well, I'm glad, but we're talking business wise, and a company that, by the way, just lost their top star and has really lost a lot of people because they financially cannot afford things, and they invested a shit ton of money into her and did not see that much ROI. So that's a lot of people are going to be weird about this, and I can't believe you guys are bad-mouthing her. She got hurt or whatever. We're just talking about what she signed for and what she was ended up being worth for that company, and what she's going to sign for and what she's going to be worth in AEW. That's all we're talking about. And right now, that return on investment is not looking good for New Japan. It obviously it's done. We know it didn't look good, and what it would look like for AEW is also I'm pretty dubious about it as well. Similar to you.
Well, you tell me. Sakura Genesis, she worked in the mid card, and I don't think she mattered at all. We'll leave that one out. But the Stardom show in Yokohama, where she worked second from the top behind Tam Nakano and Julia, she wrestled Mayu Iwatani. Let's say that those were both drawing matches. That did 55-39. I have no perspective. I don't know anything about Stardom's business. That looks like a great house through my eyes. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any feel for what the drawing match was. I don't have any feel for what that show was expected to do, whether that was really was a good house or it was a so-so house. I don't know. So that would be the only one I can't really speak on. But the Battle in the Valley show doing the same exact number this year. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the show itself. So Okada and Will Ospreay was the main event. This was, I thought, as far as the card goes, the top 3 matches were pretty great. You said 2 earlier. Did you not like Kingston Gabe Kidd?
I liked it, but it was weird. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know how to count it as a match. It didn't feel like a match. It felt like a prolonged segment to me. So I liked that, but I don't know. Like that was going to kind of be my take on it. Was I don't know that I call it a match as much as I call it just kind of a one very long segment, which I did enjoy, but it just felt weird as a match. You know, it never felt like it got going. It always felt like it was just brawl, and then it was a count. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. But I did enjoy that, whatever that was, if that helps.
The chat is saying that that's a great Stardom house, but they're saying that she did not draw the house. It was a loaded show top to bottom. So
okay, there you go.
We'll trust the chat, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the top 3 were great matches to varying degrees. I have no interest in watching Gabe Kidd wrestle under this current gimmick, but I thought he's almost the perfect opponent for someone like for Eddie Kingston. And I really enjoyed, because there's just Kingston has that legitimacy and that realism that he brings to things. And I could see him wanting to beat the snot out of Gabe Kidd, this shit talking punk. So that the dynamic worked for me. And I thought Moxley and Shingo was incredible. That's one I'm going to store that away for my match of the year 2024. I mean, I thought it was that level. I thought it was just great. And now I have no idea why they were having a no DQ match. That I don't know. They're out there having a blow off match for some long feud that they were never in.
Right.
And they're killing each other. I don't understand why that match was happening, why they had this stipulation match, but just from a visual standpoint, I thought the match was incredible.
Oh, in a vacuum, it was fucking awesome. And yeah, Shingo being able to do that style. We always talk about that with great wrestlers. Great wrestlers can adapt and do everything, every single style. We always talk about Bryan Danielson as a guy who can do every single style of wrestling, even the WWE style. He excelled at that. You know what I mean? We didn't love the Daniel Bryan run in WWE, but he was the best of the best there because he's just a great wrestler. And here's Shingo tucking those jeans into those boots and having as good of a hardcore match where he's bleeding buckets as he would any other match. And it's just like, yeah, when you're great, when you're a great pro wrestler, you can be a great pro wrestler in every way. And I thought it was really, really cool for a lot of people that probably have never seen Shingo do a match like this, for him to go out there and do this match and bleed buckets and still be able to do a lot of the signature Shingo stuff, but be able to brawl right neck and neck with Moxley the entire time was awesome. So yeah, that match rocked. That was very, very clearly my favorite match of the night, which is pretty wild given Okada and Ospreay coming up in a bit. But I thought Moxley and Shingo was just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, it was the best match on the show. Okada Will Ospreay doing another the bucket list match. I think he wanted to have one more match with Okada, who was the guy who got him into New Japan to begin with after that match in Rev Pro, where Okada then recommended him and got him into Chaos. And look, Ospreay was going to end up there eventually anyway because he's Will Ospreay and he's the greatest wrestler in the world. He eventually became the greatest wrestler in the world, and he has been for the last 5 years. So he would have ended up if he wanted to be with New Japan, he would have ended up there anyway, eventually. But Okada's the one who got him in. And he's obviously had an on-again, off-again rivalry with Okada while with the company. And I think he wanted to finish up his singles run in New Japan against Okada. And the match was very much worked with that story in mind. I thought Okada, dominated the match, and that was kind of the story here. And, he even used the Stormbreaker on Will to kind of almost, and Okada kind of worked this with an edge. He was, he was taunting the crowd and making faces at the fans, and
they were giving it to him too. They were giving it to him too because there was a "fuck you Okada" chant or whatever. They were all in on Ospreay as like the babyface because he's leaving, Joe. We're never going to see Ospreay again,
right? Yeah,
so
funny.
It's kind of funny in hindsight now because they're like, well, no, this is the send off for Ospreay, and you're Okada, you'll be here. So they're booing Okada and cheering Ospreay as if like, come on, Ospreay, do it, beat this guy on your way out or whatever. And yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, it's even more of a weird match. But you're right, it was worked in the sense that Okada was still like, you've done all this great stuff, but you're still kind of my chaos.
You're my young boy.
You're still not
here.
You're
my young boy.
Yeah, you're still not on my level. You've done a lot. You've done well, kid. But you're not Okada. You're not Kazuchika Okada just yet. But you've done well.
He was the aloof superstar and treating Will like his young boy. And Will made his big comeback at the end, but Okada was able to just put him away clean in the middle. And I'm sure Will was more than happy to go out on his back in that scenario. Guy never wants to win. And, I didn't think it was the best match they've ever had. I thought it was a very good match, but I didn't think it was Moxley and Shingo was easily the best match of the night for me. And, I don't know. If I had to throw star ratings, I'd go somewhere around 4 for the Kingston match, 4 for Okada and Will Ospreay, and maybe like 4.5 or 4 3/4 or something for I thought the Moxley Shingo match was legitimately great.
Yeah, I went 4 3/4 plus. I used your plus there, and I was too much of a coward to go the full 5 with it, but I thought it was pretty damn good. So I went 4 3/4 plus for Moxley and Shingo, and I think I'm right about where you were. I think Okada and Ospreay, I was 4 1/4. I'm looking at my notes now, 4 1/4 for Okada and Ospreay, and then I kind of put a question mark next to Gabe Kidd and Kingston. I don't know how to take that match or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, you didn't like it.
No, I liked it, but I liked it more as like a large segment, like if a brawl just broke out backstage and these guys fought for a little bit. I don't know. I just never felt like I was watching a wrestling match at any point during it. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, I mean that's what they were going for.
Right.
So.
Right. It started outside, it ended outside. In between, they kind of wrestled a little bit, but it was more Eddie being like, "All right, you motherfucker, you want to fight? Let's fight." Which is like you said, the energy was perfect. A lot of other guys can't match that Gabe Kidd energy. Eddie Kingston's the type of guy that's like, "Hey, you're fucking around, and I'm sick of it. All right, I'm gonna whoop your ass now." You talk too much, I don't like it. I'm gonna whoop your ass, and that's kind of what the energy was of the whole match, which is great. But you need that kind of guy to. If Gabe's gonna do this gimmick all the time, you need guys that can match that energy all the time, and it can match it with Eddie Kingston, but. A lot of times this Gabe Kidd thing, you're watching, a G1 or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, do we need this every night? Do we need this energy every night? I don't think we do. It's a lot.
So Riddle's partner was Jeff Cobb. Now, if you remember, not only were they partners like in PWG, but Riddle was going to come into New Japan on a tag league tour and team with Jeff Cobb. And then WWE swooped in and signed him right underneath their nose. So this is kind of like a full circle moment where Matt Riddle ends up teaming with Jeff Cobb in New Japan Pro Wrestling anyway. So they beat Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. And I don't know if the idea is to move forward with them as a team in New Japan. I don't know how many more bookings Matt Riddle has in New Japan, so who knows. But on this night, that's what they went with. And remember, we're in San Jose, California. We're in, we're on the West Coast. And I think the idea was to put the Chosen Bros, back together in California as kind of the big surprise. So that was that. Julia and Trish Adora, I thought it was fine. Some nice suplexes being thrown. Now, Julia is another name that's out there, and it seems as though maybe WWE doesn't have the interest in her that people thought that they were going to have in her. So I really don't know what's going on with that, but
because AEW doesn't seem like they're in there on her at all, right? Is that?
I don't feel like anyone's in on her at this point. I mean, first it was like this super hot free agent. Now, could it be a scenario where it's like, to give a comp, I guess in baseball a couple months ago, where nothing could really happen on the free agent front until Ohtani got settled, right? Because then it's like, all right, until Ohtani signs, these teams aren't going to know where they are financially. So they're kind of holding off on whoever, Cody Bellinger or Marcus Stroh, just name whatever other free agent you want to name. Maybe that's the scenario here. We have to see what happens with Sasha Banks. Now we have to see what happens with Okada. We have to see what happens with Will Ospreay. And then, maybe she's just not the top free agent priority. Maybe she thought she'd be a hotter free agent than she really is. Maybe that's a possibility too. If you want my opinion as someone who almost never watches her, I think she has a really good look. And how should I phrase this? I don't think her work is nearly as great as everybody says. I think she's a good wrestler, not a great one. But I think she has a great look. And if I were running a company, I would kick the tires, but I wouldn't lose sleep if I couldn't sign her. That's my stance on Julia.
Yeah, I think she's a little bit better than you do. I think, especially in big spots. And I do think the last bit, and especially this match as well, she doesn't feel like she's putting a whole lot of effort in anymore. Because I've seen her in big-time main events where she is nearly killing herself out there. And it does feel like she's kind of been coasting over the last couple of months in what I've seen from her. Because she was somebody who in 2023, halfway through the year, was one of my wrestlers of the year. Like maybe in top 5. Alan and I talked about it. I think you were March Madness. I think you were gone for March Madness that one episode. And Alan came in March or whatever. And we were talking, and at that time, I put her in like my top 5 or at least my top 10 of wrestlers of the year. And then it kind of trailed off a little bit towards the end of the year, whatever. And I think she still delivers in big main events, and I think she's still pretty damn solid. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just simply sometimes she doesn't hit, or if like we're saying, or like I'm saying, that she's maybe been kind of taking her foot off the pedal here over the last couple of months and just trying to kind of survive until she gets that next deal or whatever. But I think you're probably right. A lot of people have her as like, you sign her and she's instantly your top star of your women's division.
I don't see that.
I don't know if that's quite her just yet.
She's good. I mean, to be clear, I think she's pretty good. Tony Khan is replying to his "It's going to be an amazing 2024" AEW tweet with memes. So read into that however you like.
I don't know. It's Tony. I don't know.
So, he's replying to that with memes after the Okada news.
He's certainly posting, but is he posting through it or with it, or what is he posting with? I don't know.
Yeah. My New Japan source is unable to confirm what they're doing with Okada on the February shows. The way that release reads is he's just working those 3 shows. I mean, that's clearly what it says. And it says there's card changes that are coming. So right now they have Gato in a room somewhere scrambling,
right,
rewriting all of these
with
cards,
markers,
and changing all of these. Yeah.
Getting all these guys out of here. Case Low earlier in the No Dope chat room did bring up a good point that none of the Chaos guys are in any of the Fantastica Manias. So maybe they were apprehensive to add any of those guys to there, knowing that he wasn't going to. I don't know. Like, again, maybe they just told the Chaos guys, hey, take this tour off or whatever. But I think that is pretty interesting that none of the Chaos guys were listed for any of the Fantastica Mania.
He's worked some Fantastica Mania shows in the past with his lucha background. It's always like a fun gimmick. I don't know that he works them all, though. So that might not even be unusual that he wasn't booked for these. Anyway, back to Battle in the Valley. Julia retains the title. I thought maybe she'd lose since it's like all these rumors swirling that she might be moving on, but she won. So I don't know. Because how often is she going to be around to defend this dopey title in America? You know what I mean? So I figured this was a spot where she could lose, but that's not what they did. Phantasmo and Hikuleo beat Coughlin and Clark Connors. I just don't give a fuck about any of these people. It's so hard for me to watch a match like this and care because there's not anybody in the match that I give a single shit. I just want this to end.
I know.
I can't anymore with Phantasmo and Hikuleo and these war dogs. I just don't care.
Yeah, I watched this match and I have absolutely zero thoughts about it. And I watched it earlier today, and I'm like, I don't.
It's just this second hour of raw bullshit ass match.
It was in my brain and it's out of my brain, and I couldn't tell you a single fucking thing that happened in this entire match. And I promise you, I watched it. I don't know what happened. Does it matter?
Did Hikuleo do his awful frog splash again, or did he keep that one in the
I
chamber?
don't know. It left my brain. I'm honestly I'm racking my brain trying to remember a thing from this match. I know nothing. I don't remember anything. I guess we should just move on. I know stuff about every other match on the show. I know Asswag came back in the Finley TJP. I know that.
Well, hold on now.
Hold on. I'm just
he
saying.
spit some mist.
Well,
he spit some mist.
Hints of the Oswag is what Walker Stewart said.
I pose you a question. Is TJP a mist spitter now? Is this just part of his game?
I think it is. I think it's got to be, right?
He's a mist spitter?
I think the Oswag, overall Oswag/Asswag. You led me to believe that this thing was pronounced Asswag, Joe, and I believe it's more Oswag. But
it's Oswag.
Oswag is what you're calling it?
Listen.
Or Asswag. You said Asswag on the Wrestle Kingdom.
I'm a dedicated pronouncer.
You are. That's why I'm asking you. That's why I want you to clarify.
Look, I don't know. I read it how it's spelled. What do you want from me?
Well,
okay.
Shades of the Oswag is what Walker said when he sprayed the mist. So I do believe that he probably, at least for the time being, is going to be a mist guy.
I see what's happening here. You trust the velvet voice.
I do trust the velvet voice a little more than I do trust you. Yes.
I'm insulted. We've been doing this show for half of his life, and you trust him more than me.
He is stupid young. Yeah, that's right. He was, when we started the show, he was, 10 years old?
Something like that. Yeah.
No, younger. Jesus Christ, he's only 21. Younger. He was like 8 or 9 when we were doing the show. Imagine him listening to this.
Yeah.
He, of course, did not, because he is, I think, a relatively well-adjusted human being, so he didn't grow up listening to this show. But, no, I trust him on the pronunciation of Oswag. But
Finley, the heavyweight, dominates TJP, the junior, as we get ready for the cage match between the Bullet Club and the United Kingdom, or the United Empire. So I like it from that standpoint. Finley's a champion. He's a heavyweight. It was too much for the junior, right? That's like within the, that's the what's the word I'm looking for? That's the canon of the promotion, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's how the match should have went. Mascara Dorada and Volador Jr. over Rocky Romero and Soberano Jr. Look, these guys, when they come in and do these shots for these other companies, they're going to go out there and they're going to have a good match. They're never going to go out there like they're in the main event of Arena Mexico trying to have a great match. That's not what they do. So you got to temper your expectations a little when they show up in MLW or their, second match out of the curtain on a New Japan show. This was a good match, right? But this was not a match that you're going to be recommending to your friends or anything like that. They went out there and played the hits and had a good match.
Yeah, I'm glad I watched it, but not anything that you're going to write home about or think about ever again. But good, good stuff to start us off on the show, really.
So the opener had Jacob Fatu just out there trying to get a job. Right. I mean, that's what this was.
Right. He got a big pop too. He got a big pop when they announced him
in California.
Yeah.
Right. With Shota Umino and Fred Rosser against, Team Filthy. And Fatu was the star of the match. I mean, he was doing everything he could other than holding up a neon sign that said, "Sign me. I'm available. Hey, Fabio, I'm available." Like, he wanted to be signed. And he was so great. And the baby faces won. And then the big story is Tom Lawlor had some dissension with the Filthy crew and made some peace with Fred Rosser, his longtime rival.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on with that, if we're going to be breaking up the Team Filthy. Now, what we always do is forget the angles. So I jotted all of them down.
Good.
So
I
we're
tried
going
to
to
as
talk
well.
about the
I tried to
angles.
as well, but we always at the end of the show go, "Oh yeah, right, blank happened, blank." So yeah, what do you got elsewhere?
So we start here because this is where Jack Perry came out of the crowd. He attacked Shota Umino and he headbutted him and punched him in the head and then hopped in the ring, ripped up his AEW contract because he's an edgy boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the fuck this is. So is this a reverse excursion? Is Tony sending him away to New Japan for a little while so people forget about him, forget about the CM Punk bullshit? He put on a little fucking thing on his arm that said scapegoat.
Yeah.
So that's not making people forget about the CM Punk thing at all.
Yeah, if the goal is make people forget, I don't think ripping up the contract and a little the scapegoat is exactly a way to make them forget about it. So maybe just leaning into it a little bit, but wanting to lean into it with New Japan first, as opposed to going right, maybe ripping up in the opening up a bad wound in AEW right away. Do it, dip your toes in it in New Japan. Dip your toes a little bit in it, and he's going to be at the Chicago show probably. And that'll be a good one for him to get mega heat or whatever and kind of play around with that for a little bit. So it might simply be hey, this is a kind of a fun thing to do, for now. And then, when we think things have cooled down at least enough, we can bring it to AEW. Because I don't know if they want this kind of heat in AEW. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I guess we're going to find out over the next weeks and months. But yeah, I don't think he's like full-time New Japan or anything like that. He's clearly just on whatever this is. What do you call it, an excursion or whatever?
Excursion. Maybe send him away. Look. Well, he has to wrestle Shota Umino now, right? I mean, you can't. Umino can't get punked out like that and then not eventually have a match with the guy and beat him. And I suppose you might have something built in with Sonata since he wrestled him at the Forbidden Door, but that might be a little bit over his pay grade, right? Sonata's like a top guy. I don't know if they want to put, but I don't know. Who knows? But I don't know if they're going to send him to Japan. But obviously the storyline is he doesn't work for AEW anymore. He ripped up his contract. So if he doesn't go to Japan, what the fuck is he going to do? So I would assume the guy's going to Japan, but I guess we'll find out. Again, they were building up the cage match. They even did a big angle after the Ospreay Okada match where those guys came out and surrounded the ring, and he said he would see him in the cage. That cage match is going to be fucking bonkers.
I cannot wait. There's some real passion and energy in that match right now. There really is.
It's
going to be a bloodbath. Guys are going to be going nuts. It's going to be a huge brawl. I can't wait.
Yeah, because TJP and Cobb came out for the save at the end of the show because they were the only other United Empire guys on the show, I think, right? Yeah. And then they talked about the cage match. And then we got the Mustafa Ali vignette where he says he wants to wrestle Hiromu in Chicago, which is smart because obviously Ali was a big indie star in Chicago before he got signed to WWE with freelance and all that. So that was the market that you're going to want to use him, right? And the whole basis of it was almost like, look, I'm a pro wrestler and I'm a professional, and this guy is a crazed maniac and he plays with stuffed animals, and I don't like him. And I'm going to show him what pro wrestling is. That was the gist of it. So that is a chance to be a really great match. A really great match. Now, I don't know where Ali's head's at, how he wants, he's been a big indie guy before, so it's not like he's some WWE trained dope who's going to go out there and dog it. He knows the score, and it's his city, and he's had great matches in that city when he was with freelance. And, he was a Wrestle Circus guy, so he's done the super indie thing. He knows.
Yeah. He's done a whole lot more than, he did AAW for a while. He was doing Dreamwaves for a while. He's done the circuit. He gets it.
He knows. So he knows, and I'm sure he's gunning to have a great match with Hiromu.
Right. This isn't Nic Nemeth, who we really do not know. We're going to finally see what this guy looks like outside of the reins. This guy was wrestling in the indies while it was, piping hot for years and years and years and years. So it's like, he's been there and he's done it. But yeah, the worry is that, he kind of lost a little bit of, like, not necessarily the skill, but some guys lose like the passion to have really, really, truly great matches once they go back and they see it as beneath them or whatever. I don't know that about Ali, but also I wouldn't call that beneath me if I'm wrestling in front of, 3,000 people at the Wintrust Arena. That's just as big of a match or whatever. So,
or maybe more people because that show is now sold out, all the available tickets, and they have to open more seats. I
think they said they were going to do that. More sections will be opening up imminently. Stay tuned for more information. So that's what they tweeted out last night.
Yeah, because every ticket available is now sold. So they're going to have over 3,000 people in there. And, maybe they'll hit 4. Who knows? It's going to be a big show. And it's New Japan. And obviously this guy is also probably looking for a job, right? He's going to do, look, I'm told his indie price is exorbitant and people are giving it to him. So what he's probably doing, which is smart, is while it's fresh and he can get the big paydays, he's doing that before he met. Why would you immediately sign with a big company when you can get these huge indie paydays and spend Monday through Thursday with your family.
Right.
Right. And it's like, instead of being on the
enjoy
road
your
all
freedom
these,
for a little bit. Enjoy that freedom for a little bit, and make X $1,000 or whatever it is on the weekends, and then enjoy that freedom. Go out to dinner. Go take your kid. I mean, he's got young kids as well, and he hasn't probably been able to really do a lot with them over the last couple of years. He's been on the road or whatever. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to go and
When this guy has packed weekends, 5-figure weekends aren't off the table. So you can make that money now. Hang out Monday through Thursday.
That's good money if you can make it, man. Damn, I'm in the wrong business.
And then plot your next move, whether it's AEW. I don't know. I don't understand why. I mean, anyone should want this guy. So whether it's New Japan, obviously, is interested in him. They booked him. And I can't see Tony not being interested. So he can sit back and plot his next move. Maybe maybe he sees New Japan as a good spot because he can go on tours. And then again, you get 2-3 weeks off in between all the tours to do whatever the fuck you want. And maybe he saved his money, so everyone's situation is different, and I haven't seen his stuff yet. I know he worked a Game Changer match. I wouldn't watch a Game Changer show if you stapled me to the chair. So
other than WrestleMania weekend, I'm not watching a second of Game Changer wrestling. I know he's in France or whatever. I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of his indie work yet. So
I haven't seen anything yet either, but I don't, he knows the score. He came from there and he likes to perform, and he's been a great, so I don't, and Nemeth, I'm positive, just based on the moves that Nemeth has made, I think he wants to work hard too.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Can he though? That's going to be the biggest thing.
Can he and will he? Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Like, can he adjust his style? And, obviously he's got the ability and he's athletic enough and all that, but, no, is he going to go out there and grab holds? I don't know. We'll find out. But we'll talk more about him later, I guess. But that was Battle in the Valley. And then, the Chicago show. Now, what do you chalk up sort of the resurgent business of New Japan in America to? Because for a while there, they were doing so poorly here that a lot of people were just like, they should just drop this. What is the point of coming here and doing what amounts to a decent sized indie show, drawing 600 people to, that venue they run in Texas all the time, or a couple hundred people in that venue they run in North Carolina. They don't run big show. But now look at this. I mean, Battle in the Valley did great. Chicago's going to do an enormous house, and who knows how many tickets they can get. I mean, the setup was 3,530 seats, and they're gone. They're going to do over 4,000 by the time that show goes off. I mean, they're going to do almost what they could match what they did for the G1 in Dallas,
right,
for this Windy City ride.
Yeah,
that's on the table.
Yeah, this show was wild. I mean, I was stunned that they did as well as they did. I don't know if it's simply that they're running a pretty big building and a building that's actually in the city, because for a while it's the thing that Dave Meltzer talks about all the time, that sometimes you have to run a prestige building or a building that people perceive as being a big deal. Then people will perceive the show as being a big deal. He talks about that all the time with ticket prices. You talked about that with ticket prices in AEW in terms of when they raised their price. Everybody said, oh, it's a terrible idea to raise the prices of their tickets. That's why their business is struggling. But that's just never actually the case. Like, a lot of times when tickets go, get higher and higher, people now, there's an extra demand that go, well, hold on a minute. Why is this ticket so expensive? This must be something I need to go to. And then that same thing happens with pay-per-views. If you make a pay-per-view $10 and all the other pay-per-views are $30, then people are going to go, well, what's up with this $10 one? Why it's not as good as the other ones? And then, WWF did that, where they were doing the in your houses, and then eventually they just said, well, every pay-per-view is this price, and they made more money than ever, and they made a shit ton of money just doing that. That might be what's going on here with this Wintrust thing, where they're booking a big boy building. They're not booking the Odeum in Villa Park or whatever, which is not around anymore, so you can't book that anyway. They're not booking the Now Arena. They're not booking some of these other kind of smaller arenas that they've booked in Chicago. They're booking the Wintrust Arena in the actual city proper. That's a big arena, so I think maybe people are perceiving that as, okay, this is a big show then. This is a show that's going to be important, and I should probably go and get a ticket for the show. So it may have just been something where just simply announcing a pretty big venue gets that interest. But you're right, it is kind of resurgent business for sure, which is strange because you and I were talking about as a couple of weeks ago that, man, I don't know if you guys should be running in America all that much anymore. Maybe do 1 or 2 shows in America a year and call it a day after that. But shit, sell 4,000, 5,000 tickets to Wintrust Arena in April. You can come back a lot of times then. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what's causing it because it's not just simply Mox and Naito. I mean, a lot of those tickets were already moving and momentum was already building on that. I don't know. I guess he announced it at Battle in the Valley, so I guess that match is probably a big one. But I don't know. I just think it's simply announcing a pretty big building and making it seem like this is a big show. I think is probably perception.
How about
meeting
this
reality.
theory? How about this theory? First of all, they're doing some pretty big matches here. I mean, Will Ospreay Okada is a big match. Tetsuya Naito versus Jon Moxley is a big match, right? So you've got big stars and big matches. But I think even more than that, I think AEW has gotten New Japan back over in the United States with the Forbidden Door shows.
Sure.
And bringing in Okada and bringing in all the New Japan stars and now doing Wrestle Dream, right? They've given people a taste of these New Japan stars and gotten them over again. And I think that has something to do with it. They've given them huge platforms. They've put them on TV. They've run pay-per-views around the idea that New Japan is on, a level playing field on equal footing with AEW. And a lot of the core AEW fan base were big New Japan fans before AEW existed. Right? And maybe the ones who weren't have 2 years of exposure to all of these New Japan stars. And I think AEW has inadvertently gotten the New Japan roster over. Now, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm not bothered by that. I'm not threatened by that. Because what difference does it make? Like, even if what I'm saying is true, what difference does it make to Tony Khan that New Japan is able to come over here 3 or 4 times a year and draw, a 2,500 or 3,000 or even 5,000 fan house off of the back of my television, right? It's not going to affect his business at all.
Well, no, Eddie's going to sign those guys when they become stars, so he's more than happy.
And that was my next point. And anyone who he likes off of their roster can be on his roster anytime he wants.
Right.
So
it's
from
quite
his standpoint,
advantageous to promote them and allow them to come here and work.
Right. So if he gets those guys over, right, that's only going to benefit him in the end. So what does it matter to him if New Japan comes here and comes to Chicago and draws 5,000 fans? And sure, maybe they wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for Forbidden Door and AEW television and all that. But what skin is it off of his back? As long as they're on Axis at 10 o'clock at night after Impact, they're no threat whatsoever. It means nothing in terms of affecting his business. Now, if New Japan went out and got a television deal with insert basic cable network here, and they're airing on fucking whatever night of the week, then maybe Tony Khan has reason to pump the brakes a little on this friendly relationship with New Japan, because now he has a legitimate competitor in the marketplace. And, if some network were to throw some money into New Japan, who knows, these maybe there's some network exec somewhere who sees what WWE and AEW are doing in terms of winning all these nights on cable, and maybe is privy to wrestling or is a wrestling fan and says, well, shit, we can give this thing a go with New Japan. They're on Axis. They probably got a terrible deal. Let's throw some money behind it. Let's put them on TV. At that point, that's when Tony Khan would say, all right, now maybe this is going to affect my bottom line, because this has a chance that this is more wrestling on TV. It's spreading out the eyeballs even more. And maybe this starts to affect my ratings. Maybe it's on the same night as Rampage or Collision or Dynamite or whatever. But as of right now, I think what's happening is Tony is getting New Japan over. And I think it works for everyone. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it works for everybody. Anyway, that's my theory.
No. And I think what helps too is back-to-back Forbidden Door shows being spectacular shows, just being like unbelievably great shows too, is probably making people think. And if you look at these, I guess to a lesser extent, Okada and Ospreay sort of was this, but maybe people didn't really realize it was in AEW versus New Japan match. Shingo versus Jon Moxley is an AEW versus New Japan match. Moxley versus Naito here is going to be a Shingo in AEW versus New Japan. So they're kind of they're making these New Japan strong, whatever, these New Japan America shows, sort of pseudo Forbidden Doors. You know what I mean? In terms of the big time matches, a lot of them are AEW talents versus New Japan talents, and that's probably helping draw it as well. Like more kind of to your point as well, that these are sort of pseudo shows that guys that are being promoted on AEW television are facing AEW talents, and it's kind of a confluence of New Japan fans, AEW fans of good wrestling, all know that they're going to get something decent out of these shows. So I think that's probably helped as well. I think the cards are just better than they've been for a while too. There was a while there where a lot of these New Japan and America shows just did not have very exciting cards, and these have been very, very good cards.
Yeah, well, they're doing some pretty great business here. And I mean, it really started last year with last year's Battle in the Valley is where it started, right? And then they followed up with the we just talked about it before. Long Beach did 2,900. Now they're coming back and selling out San Jose again. Now they're going to maybe threaten putting 5,000 in Chicago. You going to go to that Chicago show?
I am going to be gone. I am a vacation.
What?
For that one. Well, fuck off. This vacation was planned 4 months ago before they announced Windy City Riots. I didn't know they were coming to Chicago in April, so.
Why don't you fly back real quick and go to the show and then go back to where we are?
I don't know if that's possible.
All right. Why not?
Let me look at the itinerary.
What, you got an Airbnb or something?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell the nurse that night, shit, I got to run out for some bread.
I'll be right back.
Right. Fly back, go to Windy City Riot, and then fly back to wherever the fuck you're.
What's the date on Windy City Riots? April 12th. Yeah, that's the day I fly out to California, so that's gonna be tough. So I should just say, I didn't make the flight, guys. Sorry. Gosh darn it, I'll be there tomorrow. Yeah, well, it happens.
I guess so.
Maybe I'll do an instant reaction live with you. So
from Death Valley,
Palm Springs, close. Also the desert.
Palm Springs,
back in the desert. Yep.
Isn't that in Florida? Palm Springs.
No. I'm sure there's a Palm Springs in Florida, but no. Palm Beach might be what you're thinking of, but no, Palm Springs in California.
Oh, Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah, Palm Beach, Florida.
I ain't going to Florida.
All right. No, you're not going to Florida?
Nah.
Go to Palm Beach.
Yeah, not
a
Florida
guy. You're a big beach guy?
Yeah, not a Florida beach guy.
I hear those beaches are beautiful in Florida.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad. Florida. I don't know. Been to Florida
Palm
a couple
Springs.
times. I'm good.
Palm Springs, California. This is like a normal vacation.
Yeah.
What happened to you guys?
Well, no. It's a desolate desert.
What?
Palm Springs?
Is it?
Yeah, sort of.
These pictures don't look like the desert.
I'm going to be.
Like
my Airbnb is in the desolate desert part of Palm Springs.
Oh, great! So you're setting up another horror movie scenario where
yes.
some desert creature.
Oh, I see. If you look up Palm Springs, California on Google, it comes up with all these like golf courses and pools and stuff. Yeah, no, I'm in the middle of the fucking desert.
Well, the more I scroll,
yeah,
sir. Well, I thought you were taking a normal, relaxing vacation. Nope, you're going to be backpacking through the fucking desert.
Yeah, Joshua Tree National Park. One of the final California national parks to check off my list, and I've been to all of them. So yeah.
How hot does it get out there?
Pretty spicy. Yeah, a little spicy. A little spicy. I don't know what it is in April, but I think it should be pretty nice. I like it hot.
Palm Springs, America's oasis, grapples with drought.
No, that'll happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not my fault. I'll be there for a week and then I'm leaving. So
it's fucking hot. Bring your own water.
That's for them to figure out, not me.
Yeah, I agree.
They'll have that Colorado River rerouted any day now, and then we'll be good to go. So.
They're rerouting rivers now?
Yeah, they want to. And a lot of other people
that
are
doesn't
like,
sound
hold on
good.
a minute.
I don't.
Why don't you guys not live in the desert? And they're like, nah.
Yeah, I don't.
How about you move away from the desert instead of taking our water?
I don't know how I feel about rerouting rivers. What is that? Yeah, don't live in the desert. Yeah, what are we doing here?
Right. That's what a lot of the people in the Midwest and Colorado and all that stuff are like, well, it's not our fault, Los Angeles, that you live in a desert. That's that you chose that, not us. So we don't, no, you don't get to have our water. We get to keep our water. So yeah, that's going to be a problem in this country over the next, our kids have to live through water wars. That was what Waterworld was about. Wasn't that Waterworld, the premise of?
Never saw it.
It's been a long time since I saw Waterworld. I don't know if I remember what the premise of that movie. The movie. With
how many years we talking before that's a problem?
I don't know. Have to ask somebody more
ballpark
more in tune. I'm in the Midwest. I have plentiful fresh water by me, so I don't have to really worry about me as much. I don't know. Yeah, 20, 30 years probably.
I might care then. I might care. Anything over 50, I'm like, fuck it.
Right, I'll probably be good. Yeah, if I'm alive, I'll be in a vegetated state, and I won't care. You know what I mean? I'll just be sitting in a chair and watching a game. They'll just turn the game on for me. You know? I mean, as long as I think, as long as there's a TV to watch a game, I'm, at that point, you're like, whatever. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
99 years old. You're not gonna change anything. You're just gonna. What can I do? I'm just gonna chill.
No.
I'm told there was too much water in Waterworld, hence the name Waterworld, which makes sense now in hindsight. That
that's
too much water.
Sense.
But that's what happens here. This is the polar ice caps melt, and then there's too much water. So it's like we get too hot, and then we usher in a new ice age. That's kind of the idea here. So
well, again, until people throw a number of years, I wouldn't. It's not my concern.
I wouldn't worry about it right now.
It's not my concern. When's like Miami going to be underwater?
That could, who knows? Yeah, that could be
a little sooner.
Yeah, that might be. No, I don't know if that's. Yeah, I don't know.
The old ice caps.
Yeah, Charleston, South Carolina, not doing good. They flood every time now it rains. So
yeah,
massive floods every time because it's like, well, what if we build more houses on the marshes? What's going to happen then? It's like, well, I think it's going to flood more. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's build some houses on these marshes and see what happens. Okay, well, it's flooding. So, would you look at that? Anyway, that's so we talked about insurance, and now let's talk about global warming. What else we got on the list?
That's because they all think like me.
Right.
I
want a nice house. Though.
I'm already. I'm 63. I worked for this my whole life. I just want the house. That's how they think. They're not worried about it.
All right, so we've talked about insurance, the healthcare system, global warming. What else do you want to get into? Joe, what are your thoughts on socialism?
Oh, you really want to do that?
No.
Well,
no.
All right.
No.
Now you're speaking my language, sir.
Cracking the knuckles. All right, so
I've been waiting to rant on this one for a while.
Including one of your all-time great gimmicks that I think I should. Now's a good time to bring that up on a show that we have so much to talk about. So our Patreon has an option to view drafts. Like you can put a draft of something in our Patreon.
Yeah.
And one day I clicked create, and it's like, oh, would you like to view drafts or whatever? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll see what the drafts are. Is it still there? Or did you get rid of it? Oh no, you got it here. You have it here.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the drafts and I'm like, oh, what the fuck is this thing? And it's on July 11th, 2023 at 11:28 p.m. Written by Joe Lanza. It says, Hangman Page, workers' rights, and why communism is objectively bad. And I'm like, what? Like, what is he writing here? And then if you click it, it just says, just kidding. And it was you just putting a draft in. And I assume just fucking around.
It was me.
So.
Me making you tug your collar.
Because I was like, oh no. I was like, Joe, please do not post that. But I love it. It's a good column. Yeah, it's a good. That would get the engagement. That would get the engagement for sure. But yeah, it's a good gimmick. I remember finding it out at it was like 9 p.m. one day, and I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck? I was like, what is he writing? When is he posting this? Oh god, I don't want this on our Patreon. This isn't going to go well. But yeah, good. That's a great gimmick. So appreciate you doing that. All right. let's talk about well, hey, you want to talk about contract season since we're talking about people moving and going and all over the place. This is your baby, so go for it.
The events of tonight have certainly knocked the retirement of Yukio Sakaguchi down the list of items that I wanted to discuss.
Another giant blow to Puro.
Yeah,
right. Another massive loss to Japanese pro wrestling.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like someone who has to follow like a big wedding proposal or something, and I have to follow it up with I don't know. I bought a used car or something, but we'll go through these. The aforementioned Yukio Sakaguchi is retiring from DDT on February 7th. We have Saiki Yoshioka is taking UK bookings out of his home promotion of 01. So he'll be taking some UK bookings coming up. This all seems so pointless after Okada has quit All Japan.
Yeah, Sakaguchi,
but I'm gutting through.
This guy.
I'm gutting through. The aforementioned Nic Nemeth has signed with TNA. He did in fact turn out to be the big signing. So it was Nic Nemeth, one of the names that we opined. So he will not be long for New Japan. He will not be long for the Puerto Rico territory. Nic Nemeth has landed in TNA. Do you think he was waiting by the phone for Tony Khan, or do you think he wanted to be the big fish in the small pond? What's your read on Nic Nemeth?
I think he would be more than happy to have gotten a call from TK, but I think this is probably a decent enough landing spot for him. I probably not his first choice, but I think it's, I think big fish, small pond is probably a good move for him. Honestly, if I was him and I'm not paying his bills or whatever, and I'm not paying his mortgage or whatever, so it's hard to say. But like, I think if after years of being what he was in WWE and where he was slotted, I kind of like the idea of going to TNA and instantly, attacking the world champion and instantly being put in tippy top spots and being promoted as a tippy top guy. Like, I think I'd like to try to do that for a little bit. And if Tony does call, yeah, of course, you go and take that and you take the pay cut, the pay raise, the assumed pay raise or whatever. But I think this is probably, if I was him, this is the landing spot I would like to be at. And I kind of was glad this was the landing spot for him. I think it makes all the sense in the world, and I think it's good for TNA, and I think it's good for him, and I'm excited to see what happens for it. I'm cautiously optimistic about Nemeth and TNA, so we'll see.
Well, I don't think Tony can call now because I think TNA has signed this man. He was their big signing, right? They announced that this is their big signing, so this is it. He's not coming to AEW.
Well, for how long? I guess would be my question of is this a 6-month thing? Is this a Trinity deal? Is this I think a lot of the, I don't know. Wasn't there a thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I just made this up out of nowhere, but wasn't there some weird clause that was getting put in a lot of TNA contracts for a while that was like, yeah, if X calls, you can listen to them, but not if Y calls or what? Am I making that up out of my head, or was that?
I don't know. That was a Gabe thing with Evolve, but I don't ever recall TNA offering deals like that. But I mean, it's possible. I don't remember that. Mm-hmm. But look, they've had a hole burning in their pocket for a while to sign a big free agent, and this is the one they got. So he there's no way he came cheap. I mean, this was a 7-figure guy, so he'll be the big fish in the small pond, I guess. Ash by Elegance showed up as well on the pay-per-view. The hell was her name?
FKA Dana Brooke, the champion.
Dana Brooke, the championship. I'll be honest. I wouldn't have recognized her. She's one of these people who looks different every time she's on the camera.
I had no idea that this was Dana. When I first saw a picture of it before I actually watched Hard to Kill, they were like, Ash by Elegance is in TNA, and I was like, who the fuck is that? I had no idea who it was, and even saw a picture, and I was like, I don't recognize who that is. And then I saw Dana Brooke, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that sort of makes sense. But yeah, it's not somebody I would sign at all if I was TNA. The flip side of the Nic Nemeth thing is like, I cannot fathom what you have to pay Ash by Elegance, and yeah, I'm good. I'm good on Ash by Elegance.
Yeah, I mean, Dana Brooke was in that system for a decade and never got better.
It's terrible.
but she's going to do a heavy gimmick here. She's doing kind of this aristocratic. She has a handler. Mm-hmm. It appears like she has a handler. I saw some people giving her a hard time. They say she's ripping off Timeless Tony. How can you say that before we even know what the hell this thing is? I mean, is it because she has the male handler that people are saying that? I mean, it doesn't appear like she's a time traveler like this Timeless Tony. She just is wearing a gown and she has her hair done up and the makeup. I don't know. The point is, I'm never going to be interested in whatever it is. That's the bottom line for me. She isn't any good. She never was any good. But, she wants to keep her career going, so she'll give it a go in TNA. Without Trinity.
Yeah,
Fatu,
well, I will say, and yeah, with this in and the out that we're talking about here with Trinity and Ash by Elegance, that pretty hard to make this argument about, people have been making this argument for years about the TNA Knockouts division being like one of the best women's divisions in the world or whatever. I'm sorry, it's hard to say that when Ash by Elegance is being put in like a relatively high position in your women's roster. Like, I'm sorry, you can't look me straight in the face and say that FKA Dana Brooke being a major part of your women's division means that you have one of the best women's divisions in the world. I just, and especially now Trinity on the way out too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of just been shit people say for a long time.
Right.
But, Trinity Fatu in the opposite direction. She's on her way out and presumably on her way back to WWE. She loses the Knockouts title to Jordan Grace on the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. And, I mean, overall, we've kind of talked about it. I don't think her run made any kind of significant difference for TNA at the end of the day. I think that this Jordan Grace match from this pay-per-view may have been the best match she had, at least off the top of my head. Was I locked into Impact TV every week? I was not. Did I see every one of her pay-per-view matches? I did. None of them set the world on fire. I never thought much of her as a wrestler. I think she's a slightly below average talent between the bells. Her run was okay. They pushed her real hard. She was undefeated until this loss, and now she goes back to WWE. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it like any kind of bomb or massive failure, but it didn't really do much for them either. I don't know how to classify her TNA run. I don't know. Their ratings were exactly the same before she was there and when she was there, and they'll be the same when she leaves. So, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but did Trinity Fatu ever make you want to turn the dial to Axis and check out Impact on a given night? It didn't for me.
No, not really. Yeah, I think that obviously there was a lot of buzz when she first appeared. It was pretty big, and it was a lot of social media buzz, and it was a lot of and I'll say I went to a couple of shows where she was there, and the crowd was way into it. I mean, she was over in the buildings. She was over on social media. She was over on, but then when you really look at the business, not a lot seemed to move. And again, I said this a couple weeks ago. This is a move that you make 100 times out of 100 if you're TNA and you have the opportunity to bring her in, and she's willing to work for you, and she's willing to work hard. I mean, I think she worked hard in TNA. It's not like I think she slacked off or saw it as like a downgrade. I think she worked really hard and did
no
her
problem
best.
with her effort. No problem.
Yeah, her effort was great. It's just the problem is that she's not that good. And I think that kind of reared its ugly head a little bit in terms of like, this is not somebody that you can push as like your tippy top, star of your women's division and have it be a high level work rate division. You know what I mean? And that's fine. That's okay. She's there for the kind of the star power, but like you said, the star power, now that we're kind of closing the book on it, didn't really see itself through. She felt like a star in that company, and it looked like she was a star in that company, but you really look at the numbers and the ratings and that sort of stuff, and there really wasn't anything tangible. I don't know about the YouTube views or whatever that she was getting or whatnot, or quarter hours on TV or whatever, but like you said, all in all, did she grow TNA from where it was before she came there? Not really. Was she a good asset to TNA in the year or whatever that she was there? Yeah, absolutely. I think so, but again, we talk about return on investment, similar to what we talked about with Mercedes. I don't know what they paid her, but I don't know that they probably got a return for her. But with that said, I still do this move 100 times out of 100 if I'm TNA/Impact, for sure.
She's got the big entrance, and people like the entrance. And the one thing is she quit with Sasha. And at the time, if you recall, no one was really clamoring for her services. In fact, when I broke that Sasha story with Bushiroad, I asked people flat out, and I was told there was no interest in Naomi at the time. I guess none from the New Japan. Like they weren't interested. And I never saw her connected with AEW either, to the point where some people have speculated that maybe she couldn't sign with them as per the terms of her release from WWE. Because remember, it took them a while to get released.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't even know if that's true. I just don't know if there was really a ton of interest. And then eventually she turned up in TNA almost because, well, where else was there to go? Are you telling me that? Well, I know that Bushiroad wasn't. I know for a fact Bushiroad wasn't interested. Whether she had some kind of terms. Why would they tell her she couldn't sign with Bushiroad, but Sasha could? That doesn't make any sense, right? Maybe they told her, all right, we'll release you, but you can't go to AEW. That's entirely possible. But the Bushiroad theory makes no sense because they would have given the bigger star those same terms. But they let the bigger star go to Bushiroad, but not the lesser star. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up for me. But anyway, she'll be on her way back. And I think the thing about it is, I think she'll be a big deal when she comes back to WWE. I think sometimes the best thing for these people is to be away for a while.
Mm-hmm.
After you've been there for so many years and people are just, you've been doing the same act for all this time. Let people miss you, right? And then when you return, your return's a big deal. And it's, Naomi has returned. You can make a huge deal out of it. And I think she'll be better off for it. So she'll head back to WWE, and we'll never watch her wrestle again unless she's on pay-per-views, which is kind of like what we were doing anyway with Impact. But,
right. Yeah, no, that the Field of Glow will come up on the Royal Rumble. Everybody will pop. And like you said, it'll probably be a pretty big deal. And this is why people should leave more, and people should be more open to leaving and going elsewhere for a little bit, because like you said, it's only going to help you when you come back, because Naomi was there for the last decade just kind of spinning her wheels, and now she's going to come back and be probably pushed more than she was pushed when she left, and probably be a bigger star than when she left as well, and come out to the Royal Rumble and be a big giant deal, and so these things work. This is how wrestling has worked forever and ever and ever. So more people should be open to doing this and be willing to leave for a little bit and come back, because a lot of times it helps your career tremendously.
All right, let's do this last one and then do Hard to Kill. So Black Taurus, according to the Lucha blog, our friend the Cubs fan, he is signed with AEW, but AAA is making a big deal out of the trademark. He started with AAA as Taurus. Then he was working outside of AAA as Black Taurus. And of course, he worked for Impact for a while as Black Taurus, and AAA didn't have any problem with that. And he even worked some AEW shots as Black Taurus, and AAA seemingly didn't have a problem with it. But now that he is signed, they don't want their intellectual property as part of AEW anymore. So it looks like Black Taurus is going to have to come up with a new name and maybe some slight adjustments to the gimmick now that he's contracted with AEW and no longer with AAA. So this all ties into TNA and AAA, and they brought Dorian Roldan out there on the pay-per-view with Scott D'Amore, and they officially announced their partnership. Now, they had been doing business together for quite some time. D'Amore even acknowledged that when they made the announcement. He said, this has been, paraphrasing, but he said, this has been the best and most mutually beneficial arrangement between promotions that we have ever had, which I took as a shot at AEW. I'll get your opinion on that in a minute. And Dorian shared those sentiments when he spoke in English. I'm not sure what he said in Spanish, probably the same shit. And now that we see they're having this spitefulness towards Black Taurus, you get the sense that the AAA relationship with AEW might be crumbling a little, and that AAA is now firmly in bed with TNA. And the way, D'Amore, I don't know, maybe I'm off base, and maybe it was just he's out there on a pay-per-view and it's promoter talk and you want to talk up your partnership. That's entirely possible. but the verbiage he used to me was either a shot, inadvertent or subconscious at AEW. And the fact of the matter is, TNA has no right to be upset with whatever arrangement they had with AEW. They got Kenny fucking Omega to be their world champion for however many months that was,
During
6
a
months or
pandemic.
whatever that was. During a pandemic, he helped them break pay-per-view records under the Anthem ownership. Not the old records with Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle or anything like that. But under the new ownership, Omega was setting records on pay-per-view for that company. He was popping. Now, I was following this closely. You know that. And I was doing it every week on the TV reviews. Kenny Omega was popping monster quarter hours in the 18 to 49 and helping their television ratings. That was nothing. If anything, that was a one-sided relationship for TNA. They got one of the best wrestlers in the world who helped increase their business, kept them afloat during the pandemic. Okay? What did AEW get out of that relationship? What tangible thing did they got the Good Brothers on TV every now and then? What else did AEW get out of it? You could argue that they got to have Kenny Omega come on their TV as like doing the belt collector gimmick and put their guy over as this huge star.
Right. It helped Kenny get over more because he was the belt collector or whatever.
But would Kenny Omega be over any less if he hadn't won the Impact World title? I mean, let's be honest here. That was so one-sided at the end of the day in favor of TNA. They got way more out of that relationship than AEW did. And I know some of the world's dumbest people on the internet were insisting that AEW was taking advantage of TNA. I have no idea how they would ever come to that conclusion other than they're just the world's dumbest people, because Kenny Omega was such a boon to that company. And Tony Khan absolutely didn't have to let him do that. Okay? So if that was a shot by Scott D'Amore, I don't know what the fuck that man is thinking. Unless something went on behind the scenes where they got the rug pulled out from under him on some kind of deal or something that we're not privy to, then whatever. Apologies. But as far as what we're privy to, what the public is privy to, I mean, there is no way that they should be taking shots at AEW if that's what that was. Again, it could have just been promoter speak on the pay-per-view to put over
especially when you're sitting shoulder to shoulder, standing shoulder to shoulder with the guy from
put
Triple
the guy
A and
over.
say, hey, this is the best partnership I've ever had, you know. Yeah, I don't know if I read as much into it as you did. I think it's probably just Scott D'Amore, promoter, speaking on the stage with another promoter, trying to put over his most recent partnership. But I know that there is some, you know, there is for some whatever reason still some harsh feelings about that Impact AEW relationship, and that, you know, people think that AEW didn't do enough for Impact, which I think is again just completely.
What else were they supposed to do?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know.
They gave him Kenny Omega.
Yeah. And help them pop,
and then,
like you said, all their biggest business that they've had in the entire
that Anthem has ever done.
Yeah,
and then
that's entire.
And then Kenny Omega put Rich Swann, and then he put Rich Swann over clean, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck else were they supposed to do for him? That's more than what do you think WWE would have done for them?
Well, they had Mickey. They mentioned that Mickey James is in Impact right now at the Royal Rumble when they tossed her out in a minute.
Yeah, and these psychopaths will tell you that was a big deal, but giving them Kenny Omega and allowing him to be the world champion for 6 months and pop another company's fucking pay-per-views and television quarters, I mean, what else were they supposed to do besides hand them over fucking Rampage and make it an Impact show? I mean, what else could you have done?
Right. Don't ask me. that's the weird.
I mean, that was straight up charity.
Yes. I still don't understand why they did it. At the time, we were like, what are they doing? Why are they doing this?
Well, Kenny wanted to do it.
Right.
Callis was there at the time. His buddy was running the place or whatever. Although that was right around the time where Callis got bumped out.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny wanted to do it. And Tony let him do it. And Tony got to play heel. He got to be McMahon in Memphis. So Tony was having the time of his life.
Oh, he got to do those videos with Tony. Yeah, he'd put the sunglasses on or whatever. And
yeah, and he showed up at the Impact Zone, you know, to sit in the front row. He got to be McMahon in Memphis, the light version of that. And Kenny wanted to do it. And I guess from his standpoint, all right, well, Kenny gets to come on my TV with all these different world titles. And, it's the pandemic. People were getting creative. But TNA got way more out of that than AEW did. But anyway, now this relationship between TNA and AAA, I guess, is because if you talk to the Lucha people, it never was an official kind of thing. It was just this loose arrangement of talent sharing. But, now they have this, whatever would make that sort of thing more official than it was before is what we have now. And the whole idea is it ties into this Black Taurus thing to me, where AAA is being a little more adversarial with AEW now. And could it all go back to AEW doing business with CMLL through Rocky Romero? Probably. That's the easy conclusion to draw.
We knew that was untenable at a certain point. That once, because New Japan was always smart to say, all right, no, our guys are CMLL and we're not going to mix and match anybody else. We're not going to have AAA guy wrestle a CMLL guy. We're going to keep that. We're going to keep it away. We're not going to have them on the same shows. We're not going to. Everybody else was kind of mindful of it. AEW wasn't really, and they were just kind of like, whatever. Who cares? We'll figure it out. And we're going to book guys from AAA. We're going to book guys from CMLL. We're going to book guys from New Japan. We're going to intermix them all. Who cares? It's fine. And that probably wasn't going to last, given the weird politics in Mexico.
Yeah. So I would think that was that's probably the source of this, because it always seems to be. I mean, we thought maybe they could play nice as long as they kept the AAA talent out of the same ring as the CMLL talent, but these things always when it comes to those two fall apart. So I'm looking at Kenny Omega's Impact title reign. I screwed it up. He beat Rich Swann for the title. He didn't lose the title to Rich Swann. Then he beat Moose. Then he beat Sami Callihan. And remember, he actually got a pretty decent match out of Sami Callihan.
Oh, he lost to Christian, right? And then Christian
lost to Christian.
That's right.
Because then remember, Christian had a pretty significant run in Impact after Kenny.
Yes. Okay.
And then Christian lost to Josh Alexander. That's how it went.
Okay. So because I guess the idea was that Kenny didn't put any TNA guys over.
Yeah, but then Christian was in TNA for like 4 months.
Right.
Christian beat Omega on the first Rampage. And then he defended on all the pay-per-views. He beat Brian Myers.
But again, if the idea was, well, Kenny, we want Kenny Omega to lose to one of our talents, well, what are you guys offering AEW?
Right. But then Christian had a couple he beat Brian Myers, he beat Ace Austin, and then he put Josh Alexander over at Bound for Glory 2021. On a show that drew 1,000 fans in Las Vegas.
Right. So I guess the idea would be, Kenny should have put Alexander over, and then the relationship would have been good. But that's still a very one-sided, it's an extremely one-sided relationship. Because well,
Christian put him over. It's still your guy putting him over.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not Kenny, but Kenny drew all that money with those pay-per-views for TNA. I think it's more than fair for then Tony to say, all right, well, I want my own guy to beat Kenny, but then you can beat my other guy. What's wrong with that? If you're TNA, you're still getting far more out of that. Now you're getting Christian for a couple months after you had Kenny. And now Christian will put somebody over. It's still a good deal.
Absolutely.
And that 1,000 people they drew, or 900 people that they drew in Las Vegas, they just did, this is a good transition. They just did 1,500 for Hard to Kill. And that allegedly is their biggest gate in 8 years. Mm-hmm. So that 900 they did in Sam's Town with Christian on top versus Josh Alexander. Okay. And if you remember, that was that poorly booked bullshit where Josh Alexander beats Christian for the title and this emotional thing, his family hits the ring, and then Moose comes in and cashes in their fake Money in the Bank thing and beats them immediately.
Oh, right.
Remember?
Right. So they didn't even get the benefit out of it because they had to turn it into their thing. Yeah.
Because they're big old dummies and they did that stupid angle with Moose with the wannabe Money in the Bank shit that has to go. Because Moose won the thing earlier in the night. Call your own shot. Fucking horse shit. And he ruined the moment, and the idea was to get heat on Moose, I guess. But But no, what my point is, that's one of their biggest houses in years that Christian drew with Josh Alexander. Because we know that the 1500 was their biggest gate in 8 years. So anyway, Toru's going to have to do some kind of name change. Something having to do with bulls. He'll be fine. But so this hard to kill. We already talked about Nemeth showing up. We talked about Dana Brooke showing up. We talked about the AAA relationship being solidified. And this hard to kill show drew, let me get the exact number of fans. I know for a fact that their biggest gate.
1630, I believe is the
is that what it is? Okay,
yeah.
So 1,630 fans for hard to kill at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas. Their biggest gate in nearly a decade. And I think one of the more interesting aspects coming out of the show, and the show was fine. I watched the show today, and it was a perfectly fine show.
Perfectly fine show.
But they're going to have to catch some strays here because for whatever reason, the WWE-friendly media types have decided to use TNA as a prop in their little games that they play. And the new narrative seems to be that, this TNA, they could be the number 2. They got things moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
They got things moving in the right direction. This TNA.
They had 1,600
really
people to their biggest show that they've had in 8 years.
Nic Nemeth showed up. I don't know. This could be a number 2. They could be number 2, because it's all passive-aggressive bullshit. And what they're trying to say, it's so dumb. They just did 1,600 fans, and it's their biggest gate in 10 years. You think that they're even sniffing the asshole of AEW? I mean, can we reel it in and be realistic here? Their television show on Axis, some weeks does like 65,000 viewers. I'm not making that number up. 70,000 viewers on a bad week. A good week, they might do 110, 120,000 viewers. And that's when they're knocking it out of the park. Okay? Rampage is doubling the numbers of this show consistently. And these are the same people that think Rampage should be canceled. But they think that TNA is right on the heels, nipping at the heels of AEW for the mythical number 2 spot in America, which, by the way, the mindset of these people that treat this like a sports scoreboard, like it matters who's number 2 and number 3 and number 4. Why does that matter anyway? Why is that important? Shouldn't these companies just try to be as successful as they could be? Like, why do we have to jump them on a scoreboard? I'll tell you why. Because all of these clowns still have their brains attached to the Monday Night War.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. We're still infected by the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars.
Where you have to be ahead of these other companies or the other company perception-wise. Because why?
Because.
That's what put Eric Bischoff out of business, pursuing that. And that this is how they continue these people, these relics from the Monday Night War era. These guys in their late 40s, early 50s who are still in the game, covering this shit, covering in quotes. Okay? And they cannot view the wrestling business without viewing it through the lens of who's ahead of who. Who's number 2? Who's number 1? Who's number 3? In what universe is TNA doing anywhere near the business? AEW just drew 80,000 people to a wrestling show. How many years will it take from this point forward? And I'll be gracious and throw you to 1630 they just drew in the Palms Casino Resort. How many years will it take for TNA to draw 80,000 people? Let's do the math.
Probably a number of years. Yeah,
Let's do the math.
I'll try to do the math. If
let's say
regularly got, and this again is their highest gate. See, and this is the problem with this kind of conversation is because instead of saying, "Hey, that's a good gate," I'm so glad that TNA finally got to where they haven't been in nearly a decade. Now we're like, these idiots, they're not going to get anywhere close to this. So.
If every TNA pay-per-view did 1,630 fans, and we're assuming they do one a month, it would take them 4 years to draw 78,240 fans. They're still not to 80,000.
They're not going to get to Greensboro. What's their Greensboro number at? 16,000 at this point?
They won't do that this year. They won't do it in a year.
Right.
What the fuck are we doing here?
Being dumb.
And I think it was Justin LaBar who made this point. That guy's been around for years and years. His point was, if they get a television deal, they could be number 2. Yeah, well, if I get Megan Fox to come over with me and TLB, I could have the threesome. I'd
be working on that day for sure.
Right, exactly.
A lot of things can happen if a very unrealistic thing happens, of course.
And the basic problem with his premise is, why on earth would anyone be giving TNA a television deal? Because if networks were knocking down the door to give TNA a television deal, they'd fucking have one, because Anthem has parked it on their own network because they can't get a television deal. No one can get a television deal. Tony Khan, a proven winner at this game, cannot get television deals for ROH. Who's giving TNA a television deal?
So I found this exact tweet. And for people that are wondering, you guys are just doing a straw man. This guy is a host on Busted Open, does stuff for Wrestle Inc., has been around forever. Justin LaBar says, quote, it was fun. He's talking about, he's replying to a Raj Giri tweet about Hard to Kill.
Yeah.
That's a great
All
start.
of the greatest minds.
That's a great start, by the way.
Yes.
Quote, it was fun, felt energized with the TNA name back and the overall production. If they can get some better weekly TV / distribution, they could shake things up fighting for that number 2 spot in the United States. No.
This guy thinks, first of all, who's giving them a TV deal? Second of all, do you think 800,000 people a week are magically tuning into TNA wrestling if they get a television deal? The show isn't that good. They don't have any stars. How about they get some stars? There's no stars in this company. AEW has stars. And I know these people's brains are infected by the Jim Cornette, Eric Bischoff virus of AEW is failing and is going to die any day now, which is why these people are driven nuts when AEW doesn't die and continues to exist and thrive. Because Jim Cornette's been saying they're going to die from the day they began. And that fool has never been right. And Eric Bischoff goes on the air every week on his dopey podcast and says, well, if you're not growing, then you're dying. And whatever other cliche he throws out there. I mean, he would know about dying.
Yeah, he would know about unsuccessful wrestling companies for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, he just, so, and they listen to these goofs. They listen to these goofs. And then they believe it. Oh, AEW must be dying. Oh, if TNA only had a TV contract, they'd be right there. Number 2 spot. With what stars? With what stars? Tell me. Chris Sabin is, no offense to any of these people, but Chris Sabin's leading them to glory. Moose. Jordan Grace. These are nice little wrestlers. What kind of revenue are they doing versus what AEW is doing? You think they're just going to magically get a television deal and then start matching AEW in revenue? You think they could put 20,000 people in a building like AEW is about to do, or however many, 18,000 in Greensboro for the Sting retirement? A star. They don't have any fucking stars. These people, Rich, they'll just say anything.
Yeah, and that's the kind of asinine talk, again, like I said, that it really undermines, how it's cool that TNA is out there signing people. It's cool that TNA has a TNA name back and is rebranding and is really trying to do a lot to get themselves out there after years of kind of sputtering. And, hey, here's their biggest show that they've had in 8 years, and one of the biggest shows that they've had with Anthem or whatever. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff going on in that company right now, and it's not enough to just say that, because – again, these people don't care about TNA. These people don't know about TNA. These people don't watch TNA. They you know what I mean?
It's a prop it's a prop in their tribalistic argument.
Right. It's the child in a divorce. You know what I mean? Where they're
Yes.
using it to get one over on the person that, that they hate or whatever. And it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like you have no idea what you're talking about. And
in the show, and here's the thing, the show wasn't that good.
It really wasn't.
It was an okay wrestling show.
It suffered from a lot of the same issue that I have with Impact shows over the last year, where I watch them and kind of like you said, there's an okay roster there, but I don't think that the talent on that roster is being utilized properly. And I also don't think there's any stars. And I think that's really what the biggest deal is that you have a lot of these undercard matches and there's your Josh Alexander, who I think is awesome. Jake something I think has a lot of potential, but they seem to never be able to do anything consistent with him. Alex Hammerstone, bringing him in is a great move. I love Hammerstone in TNA. I think that works. And so you got those guys on the undercard, but none of those guys are like, with the exception of Josh Alexander, who's could be a top guy, but he's not a money drawing top guy. He's not a guy that's going to really move the needle or whatever. And then Moose. I mean, I like Moose, but I know we've been down the Moose path before. I mean, Alex Shelley, I like Alex Shelley. I think he's good, but he's a guy that holding the title for a little. I mean, they're devoid of tippy top talent and they're devoid of stars, and I think that's always going to put the ceiling on them. And we always say we talked about this last year when we were talking about Impact a lot. What does Impact do that nobody else does? What does Impact do that you can't get anywhere else, that you're not going to be able to watch anywhere else? And I think they're perfectly acceptable, perfectly good pro wrestling, but I can get perfectly good and perfectly acceptable pro wrestling a lot of places. I think that's ultimately why I'm never going to get fully into TNA for now, and we'll see. I mean, I watch this Hard to Kill, and I'll obviously keep an eye on their pay-per-views moving forward, but it feels like missable wrestling most times. And it feels like something that's not that important. And if you miss it, you're fine. You know what I mean? Like you're not missing great matches. You're not missing great stars. You're not missing great stories. You're not really missing anything by not watching Impact or TNA.
Well, look, if I'm a television executive and I'm looking for content and I watched this show, my biggest concern would be their production. I'm not putting that on my network. I'm going to have to kick in a lot of money to get this up to speed to be a legitimate player. I mean, it's Mickey Mouse production. It's not Major League television production. That's a big problem. So it would take a massive influx of cash, either from Anthem in that case, or from the network who, and now we're talking about a network bringing them in and paying to improve their production and paying them to provide their content. Look, Tony Khan couldn't even get his first contract was just an ad split. And he had the money and he had top tier production and he had stars, but he had to prove himself. So I don't know. It's just preposterous and that's kind of the new talking point now is, and again, it's a shame because now TNA has to catch some strays when we should be celebrating the fact that they did a nice little house here for this show and have signed a couple free agents and are doing a nice little job in their little lane. But that's all it is. You don't have to get carried away. There's no reason to get carried away here. Hopefully, they keep on growing. And then maybe someday they could get a better television deal than just being parked on the network that the company that owns them also owns.
Right.
Okay? Because they wouldn't even be on TV. They'd be out of business.
They'd be dead.
If Anthem didn't own them and Anthem didn't own a television station for them to be on, because nobody can get a TV deal. I don't know how the fuck Billy Corgan got on the CW app. I don't know what he did. And who knows, he might end up on CW network. And oh, by the way, if that show ends up on the CW network, don't worry about TNA being number 2. Worry about TNA being like number 4. New Japan outdraws them in the United States. We just talked about it. Okay? And New Japan's television show airs right after Impact's and only does 20 to 30,000 less viewers per week.
Right, for not first-run content.
For not first-run content that airs 2 hours later, not in prime time.
That every New Japan fan has probably watched already.
Yeah. And New Japan did 2,200 fans this weekend, and Impact or TNA did 1,600. Right. And New Japan's about to do 5,000 in Chicago. When's the last time TNA drew 5,000 fans?
Fuck, Yeah, I don't know.
It's probably.
I don't know. Yeah, you got to go back to.
It's probably the Alamo Dome show that I went to in 2014.
Yeah, did they get 5,000 for that show?
It was like 6,000, I think.
Okay,
it's their biggest house ever in America. My brain is telling me it was 6,000. Might have been, I don't know. If you tell me it was 4,000, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it was about 6,000. But the point here is, I mean, and then if NWA gets on CW, Rich, CW's worst performing shows do over 200,000 viewers a week. They're worst shows. So if the NWA is on CW, they're going to double Impact's viewership, and they're likely being paid. Impact doesn't get paid. So how would you not? The NWA would be ahead of them.
Right. I think that's an important distinction that a lot of people maybe lose, is that Impact is or TNA, or lesser extent, Impact is now the name of the show officially again, but that's just there as content for that network or whatever. It's not generating revenue in the same way that a lot of these other companies are generating revenue, in terms of a network cuts them a check that then they can spend on stuff. This is essentially just like ROH was in Sinclair. It's like, oh, cool, we now have content for our television network, which is good to keep you alive, but also bad in terms of you're not really generating any revenue from that. You're basically just, not necessarily breaking even, but you're just a part of you're just a cog in the wheel of the network type of thing, which is different than getting paid by a network to produce your television and presumably making, X amount of dollars every month or every week or whatever based off that television show that you're delivering to that channel.
And here's what we know. The hypothetical, if TNA can get a deal, we know the NWA has a deal. We know they have it's a real tangible thing. They have a deal with the CW. Right now they're on the app.
Well,
we don't know if they're going to be on.
Here's the thing: New Japan is getting paid more by access than TNA is, because you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
Just from that standpoint, right there, they're not. Yeah, right there is all the evidence. So that's just it's asinine thoughts, and it's these dumb things that make the conversations in wrestling so much worse than they need to be, because everything is and this Okada news is the same thing. It's just now it's people lobbing shots back and forth that tribalism is just.
And you know what's funny?
Something else.
And we've seen this play out so many times. And then if he signs with AEW, the WWE fans will then claim that he's terrible. That's the game. That's how you play the game. These WWE fans.
I don't want to play. I tap out.
They trip over themselves whenever there's.
Go home. I don't like this game.
You notice whenever there's a sniff of WWE working with New Japan or something, some dumb rumor pops up. They all get all excited, right? This one would be great. They start booking dream matches. Then Tony Khan actually does it with Forbidden Door, and they all bury it. You know what I mean? So it's just it's gross, and it's these media types who feed into it.
Right.
But anyway, nice little house for Hard to Kill. The show was fine.
I'm struggling to figure out what my favorite match was of the night. Well, one thing I'm going to bring up here real quick. We don't have to go match by match, because I think that's going to kind of be exhausting. We're a little late in the show anyway. What did you think of starting the show off, starting the new era of TNA with the Knockouts Ultimate X match? I get you want to do Ultimate X because that's a hallmark match of TNA, the Ultimate X. So I get that. And I guess you want to promote that, hey, we have this great women's division, or we push women. So it's like, it makes all the sense. But that match wasn't good, and it wasn't going to be good. I would have started with the best match. I would have started with Sabin, Vikingo, and Kushida, or something like that, or you know what I mean, like something like that. That really, I guess I'm looking up and down the card, and I don't know what I would start it with, because I don't think there was a whole lot of hot matches on the show. But I would have started with a hot match. I would my way to honor the TNA's past would be to have a really hot X Division opener. I don't know if I would have honored it with this Ultimate X match, which I didn't think was any good.
Nah, they didn't have the right people for that.
And the
we
fans
knew that
tried.
before the match happened.
The fans really tried. There was so many "This is awesome" chants and TNA chances while this match was going on, and the wrestlers tried as well. But this is not the type of match for these people. Nobody got involved. I mean, how many people got involved with the X? A lot of it was we're just going to fall on a bunch of people, but not 7 people went to the top turnbuckle and fell from the top turnbuckle and landed on a bunch of people. And I think with the exception of Jody Threat and Giselle Shaw, like pretty much nobody else got on the actual ropes of the Ultimate X. You know what I mean?
And we knew that was going to be the case. Yeah. And that's how it played out. So, no, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was terrible or anything, but it wasn't your traditional TNA Ultimate X match. You know, we knew they didn't have the right people who could make it a great Ultimate X match. So, then they brought Decay back later on. Havoc is the shits. And
won their titles. And won their tag titles.
You have to listen to what's his name? Matthew Rewalt or whatever the fuck his name is.
Drama King Matt, yeah.
He's like, I can't believe Decay is back. These immortal personalities back from the undead realm. Matt, I just want to watch a wrestling match. Immortal personalities from an undead realm. Why? Can't take it. I guess Moose and Alex Shelley was the best match. Shelley worked over his leg.
Yeah, that's fair. That was a very good main event style match for sure.
And I thought that Jordan Grace Trinity was the best match Trinity ever had in the company. There's just too many multi-person matches and it loses me. You know, the 3-way tag or the 4-way tag rather. I don't know. My mind just blanks out. You know, the X Division 3-way, same thing. Vikingo, Kushida, and Chris Sabin. You know, I wonder how it's going to affect Vikingo in AEW, but I think those guys have split contracts, a lot of those guys.
That's what I was going to ask when we were talking about that. Like, you got like guys like Vikingo and I guess Commander and Bandito. It's like a weird in-between for a lot of those guys. And, yeah, I don't know what.
I think they have split deals. I don't think, and I think obviously any of those guys that Tony wants, he's going to have them full time when their AAA deals are up. As long as they keep their visas in a row and all that, he'll AAA can't match. It's the same deal with like New Japan. He can't match the money.
Right.
But, the show was fine. I mean, this show didn't knock my socks off. Alex Hammerstone debuted. I don't know if they're going to bring him in. They should. And they had him lose to Josh Alexander.
It really sounded like he was in. That would be my guess, is that he's in.
And they had him lose right off the bat, maybe to test his ego. I don't know. But, because, the guy never lost. He never loses in MLW. And really, that MLW speech, he really made it sound like he was gone with his goodbye speech. So that'll be a good pickup for them. The show was fine. I mean, I've seen worse, for sure. I've seen worse TNA shows before where I'm like, oh, man, this sucks.
It doesn't have me excited for their next thing. You know what I mean? It's one of those where I was like, all right, here we go. We got a whole new company, and I was ready to kind of wipe this, because we stopped talking about them last year pretty much for this reason. We'd watch their pay-per-view, and I'd come on the show and just be like,
there's nothing going on.
I don't know. Like, what do you want me to say? Not that exciting, and nothing really worked for me. And then I went to Bound for Glory, and I thought that was a pretty fun show to go to live. Obviously, Ospreay and Bayley helped a lot. And then the TNA thing started, and I was like, all right, this is a whole new chapter for this company. It kind of just feels like the same company with a new coat of paint on it. And that's, they're making some moves, which I'll give them credit for. Hammerstone, Nemeth, Ash by Elegance, doing some of these things is nice. And yeah, okay, I'm in. But it feels like a lot like the same that we were getting for the last couple of years. And I haven't been that interested.
And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but if this were an AEW pay-per-view, it'd be one of the 5 worst of all time.
Oh, it'd be the worst of all time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. It could be. If I really looked at it.
I think every AEW pay-per-view at least has one great match.
At least one. Yeah, you're right. This would probably have been the worst AEW pay-per-view of all time. I was being charitable when I said bottom 5. So, just to circle back to that dopey point. Like, how do you watch this and think that this is anywhere in the same universe as a typical AEW pay-per-view? So anyway, that was hard to kill. What else we got? as we
yeah, we're running a little low on time here, so let's get to well, actually, I think we might be all right here. We got the FSM 50. We released that at voicesofwrestling.com this week. We do this annually, and there's a lot of details about the history of the FSM 50, the background of it. Alan Farrell, Alan Cunahan from PW Torch, he does the write up. He's the one that's kind of the ringleader of this entire thing, and he does a write up at the beginning of every year, just kind of explaining the history and the background of the FSM 50, and how it came to be and the reasons for it. But when Fighting Spirit Magazine closed and this thing needed a home, and it had been going on for a while, we were more than happy to host it. And we're obviously both a part of the panel. A bunch of other contributors to voicesofwrestling.com are part of the panel for the FSM 50. And it's always a lot of fun to do this, rank it, and release it to the world. And we did. And number one, for the second year in a row, and I think the third time overall in his career, Will Ospreay, the number one wrestler of the year in the FSM 50. And by the way, the way we put this together is there's a panel of people. Everybody kind of votes. We average it out, and then we kind of argue a little bit about. It's not necessarily arguing. A lot of times, it's pretty obvious. There's maybe a few little spots here and there, but essentially, we all rank. We all put our numbers in. We kind of average everybody out, see where everybody ranks, and there sometimes are very clear, rankings, and sometimes it's like, all right, well, we got to move this guy up a little because everybody had, there was wildly different rankings for this guy and this guy and this guy. If somebody truly believes somebody, they can kind of argue for this person. But I thought this year was pretty easy to put this list together, and I think everybody kind of came to a very decent conclusion. And I think that result was a really, really diverse and really good list, and a list that I'm pretty proud to post on our site. I think a lot of other pro wrestling lists out there would not have the balls to put the type of people that we have on this list, as high as we have on this list. But, we don't care because that's kind of what we do.
Well, someone has to do it.
Right.
Someone has to do it. This is
PWI ain't putting Fuminori Abe in their top 10. No. I'll tell you that. Yume Oyagi, I don't think he was in the top 10 of PWI 500. So
yeah, I mean, this is a work rate list for work rate nerds, and more mainstream lists, and not everything is for everyone, and not everything has to be for everyone. And this is based on mostly bell to bell work, regardless of push, but obviously the harder your push, the bigger matches you're in. So that obviously has an effect, and how well you, it's not based on any kind of politics or anything like that. It's just a nerdy work rate style list. And honestly, I think that the way the top 50 came out this year, and it's like Rich said, it's not straight math. We average everything out, and then, you lobby for people. You say, I really think this guy should be higher, or I think this guy had a special year and we should find a place for him, or, whatever the case may be. Or this guy, I know he came out in this spot, but he didn't wrestle too much. Maybe we should bump him down a little. You lobby for your people, and you make cases, and then Alan puts the final list together. He's the judge and the jury. And then we come up with a list. And I really think that for the Voices of Wrestling years that we've hosted it since FSM shut down, this is the best list we've ever put together. I didn't like last year's. I was actually pretty vocal about it. I thought last year's just didn't come out of the wash very well. I thought there was way too much Dragon Gate. I thought there was way too much Joshi. I thought Dragon Gate and Joshi were overrepresented last year. I think we found the right balance of voters that we have right now. I think that WWE is still slightly underrepresented. I voted personally for, I think, 5 WWE wrestlers. I think 1 made the final list. Gunther made the final list. I had Cody on my list. I had Brock Lesnar on my list. All right, so I think I only had 3. No, and I had Ilya Dragunov. So
yeah, I had Dragunov on there as well, and he was in the honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I had 4 WWE wrestlers. Only 1 made the final list, and I think that was a little light. I think, oddly enough, with our panel, this is strange to say, but again, it speaks to how the list comes out. I think the biggest blind spot with a lot of our voters is WWE. We have a lot of voters who just don't watch it at all. And you know what? That's okay, because the best of the best do make it. And again, not everything is for the mainstream WWE fan, and not everything should be for the mainstream WWE fan. They have enough. I talk about this when we talk about the Observer Hall of Fame all the time. Like, it's not for you. You know, like you have the WWE Hall of Fame. If you want to complain about so-and-so not getting in the Observer Hall of Fame, that's for the nerds to dig in and do nerdy things. And that's what this list is too. And I really think this was the best list that we've put together to date. Look, do I agree with it 100%? Of course not. You know, there's people I don't, I would, because we all had our own lists. Obviously I think my list is the correct list, but as a collective list, I think it's the best one we put together yet. The biggest points of contention seem to be the lack of MJF. I personally had him at number 24. Even though I didn't like a lot of his creative, he had too many great matches for me to deny.
I voted for him too. Yeah, I voted for him as well.
Yeah, but he didn't make the final list, and I understand why. Because he had a year that was very divisive, and a lot of the voters just didn't include him. And a lot of the voters thought he had some great matches, but just didn't have enough.
Right. He didn't wrestle that much. He did not wrestle that much that last year.
Volume matters to a lot of voters. It doesn't matter as much to me. I had Brock Lesnar on my list because he had a bunch of great matches early in the year and then disappeared. So I don't value volume as much as some other people if you have great stuff. So I had MJF. I had Brock Lesnar. But, MJF didn't make the list, and I know that was a point of contention. Tam Nakano was another one that I've seen people complain about. I can't speak to that one. I know nothing about her. So, I will abstain from giving an opinion, but I saw some people say that it was, some people went as far as to say it was just an absolute joke that she wasn't on the list. But the thing is, we have very knowledgeable Joshi people involved in this. So I'm going to trust the process and the people we have involved. She got some votes. She was on the list of people who got some votes, but she didn't make the list. So I thought MJF and Tam Nakano were the two that most people have griped about.
Virus, there was a couple people upset about him not being from CMLL.
Yeah, Virus had a lot of good lightning matches this year, but he wasn't one of the 50 best wrestlers to me. I had him on my short list of like the final 150, but he didn't get much further than that. And I don't think anybody ultimately had him in their top 50. When it comes to Virus, I was pleased with the uptick of Lucha people that ended up on the final list, particularly from CMLL.
Yeah, this is the year that Lucha finally showed out, finally got there.
Finally, and Lucha's been underrepresented every year on this thing until this year, thanks to CMLL's big year. Teton finished 9th, which was great. I mean, I think where did he finish? I had him 9th. Where did he finish on the list? 11th?
He was 11, yeah.
Yeah, I had him 9th. And I was like, man, I'm going to be the high man on Teton. But everybody had him high, which was nice to see. But Teton, Soberano Jr., Templario, Rocky Romero, Mystico, I think they all made the list, which was Volador Jr. Didn't he make it too? I think
Mystico was 17th. Soberano was 20th. Let me see. Templario was 38th. And... yeah, that might be it in terms of the straight CMLL
so those other guys didn't make it.
But that's not bad. And then Rocky Romero was 34th. Mostly on the back of what he did.
Rocky wasn't making it without the CMLL.
Right.
So, which one did I name didn't make it? Templario didn't make it.
No, Templario was 38th. Who did you?
Oh,
go over.
So they all made it. So Teton, Teton.
He was 11th. Yep.
Soberano. Mm-hmm. Templario.
Yep.
Volador.
Volador might be the one that didn't make it.
He's the one that didn't make it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because Rocky was the other one and he made it. Yeah, and then there was a AAA guy or two, Vikingo, but yeah. So Lucha finally got their due. Look, I didn't need like 7 Dragon Gate guys. Like, it's ridiculous last year, and like so many Joshi, like 1/6 of the best 50 wrestlers in the world were Joshi. I can't buy that. So this year I thought it was just much more balanced from that standpoint, where I think everything was represented as fairly as I have seen it in terms of these lists that we've done. What's interesting is I'm curious, who was your highest person that you had that didn't make the list?
I didn't make it. Let me grab my list real quick and see. That didn't make it at all.
Pull up,
it was out of the list. Yeah, let's see where mine was. I don't remember my list 100%. Let's see. All right. That didn't.
I'll
make
look at the
list
list.
at
Go
all.
ahead and
Yeah.
read them off, and I'll tell you when someone.
You want me to read the whole list for you?
Yeah, who do you got? Who you got?
Oh, I found my person. But all right. So
You found Arl. Who is it?
I had Miyu Yamashita from from Joshi, from the Joshi world. I had her 21st.
Okay.
Tokyo
She was your highest
Joshi, and she did not make it, as far as I know.
All right, so let me see if I could find mine. I know they all made it. Did Desperado make it?
Desperado did make it. He was 41st.
All right. How about Castagnoli? He made
Well,
it,
actually,
right?
shit, I found a better one. I had Ilya Dragunov 17th.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, he was phenomenal this year. So it's like,
Yeah.
I had him 17th. I don't know if I was the highest voter on him, but that's probably it right there.
It's a volume argument with him.
Yeah, I get it.
Did Castagnoli make it?
Claudio, he was 24th. Yeah.
All right, so then my highest is the Young Bucks. I know they didn't make it. I had them 22.
Okay, I had them 26th. So not because of us. Not because of us.
And I had MJF 24. He would have been the next one. I was annoyed that Kojima didn't make it. I had him 26.
Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic all over the world. That one I am bothered by. But, look, again, overall, though, I think that this was the best list that we've put together yet.
The top 10, I just think speaks to, like, I don't think there's another website on the planet that would come together. And for the record, this is not us. And I know that those fucking morons on Reddit are Voices of Wrestling. Of course they would have a WWE. They hate WWE. It's not us. There's a lot of people that don't work for this website that vote on this thing as well. Adam Summers doesn't fucking work here. Alan doesn't work. So calm down a little bit, pal. But the top 10, that I think there's no other website on earth that I think would result in a top 10 like this. Getting a bunch of people together and voting on something and posting it on a website. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a top 10 that looks like this. Will Ospreay is number 1, Bryan Danielson number 2, Kento Miyahara number 3, right there. Find me another website on the planet that's going to put Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson, Kento Miyahara together, in a countdown like this. Jon Moxley, Yuma Aoyagi number 5, Jon Moxley number 4, Kazuchika Okada number 6, Mike Bailey number 7, Fuminori Abe number 8. There is no other website on the planet, I promise you, that is putting him, not one that has the amount of traffic that we do. Number 9, Kenny Omega. Number 10, Zack Sabre Jr. I mean, right there, that speaks to just a very cool and diverse list. Then you go to the top 15. I think you then now represent pretty much all, Teton at number 11, Orange Cassidy at number 12, Katsuhiko Nakajima at 13, Madoka Kakuta number 14, and number 15, Julia. So just in that top 15 alone, you have Major America, Japan, Joshi, Mexico, Indie America, Indie Japan. I mean, that's pretty damn good right there. That is well represented, even in that top 10. Top 20, you had a bunch of the other, Mystico gets in there at 17, Soberano at number 20, Heyman Page, Swerve, Shingo. Like, you really start now representing a lot of the world of wrestling that's worth it. Yeah. Not a whole lot of Brit Rest in there, but how much of Brit Rest really deserves to be in there? No Australia, but how much of Australia really deserves to be in there right now? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Luke Jacobs is in, and he had a great year and deserved it. Didn't he make the list?
Luke Jacobs is number 30. Axel Tischer is number 31st. He's in there. So, I mean, Chris Brooks, 33, obviously doing a lot of stuff
of
across
DDT.
the world. Yeah,
DDT.
across the DT or whatever. But still, I think a guy that's
off DDT. Look, I still think WWE is a little underrepresented.
I agree.
I mean, but at the same time, the WWE wrestlers who didn't make it, I'm not particularly worked up about. I had Cody on my list, but I can see why someone wouldn't vote for Cody. I had Brock on my list because, those 3 Cody matches I thought were great. I mean, I love Brock. And then the match against Bobby Lashley at Elimination Chamber where he just punched him in the dick and got DQ'd. I love that shit. But I get why people aren't into it. I love it. If Brock wrestles in a year, I'm voting for him. Guys, I love Brock Lesnar. We need more Brock Lesnars in pro wrestling. But I could see why people wouldn't vote for him. Dragunov, it was an issue of volume. And then who else is there? Rollins? Rollins is the most overrated wrestler on the planet.
Right,
I mean,
right. That company isn't conducive to what we're voting for, is like great matches and volumes of great matches. That's just not what that company does anymore, or ever.
What great matches did he have? Like,
right.
Like Logan Paul. I love that guy. It's a volume thing. He had like 3 matches. So he's hard to vote for. Who else would you even like? Where are these great snubs from the company? That's the thing. I mean, so on one hand, I can say they're underrepresented. On the other hand, I don't have a great argument for who's missing. For anyone who's missing. I mean, who? Sami Zayn? All right, he had the Roman match. What else? You want to throw those tags in with Kevin Owens? I think they got some votes as a tag team, right? Zayn and Owens.
They got
votes as a tag team.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, but do I think that's some great snub? I don't think it is. Carmelo Hayes? No, I mean those matches were Dragunov's babies. Those outside of that, what's he got? Some multi-mans. It was all right. I don't know. You want to put Charlotte and Rhea Ripley in there because they had one great match together. What else did either one of them do all year? From this standpoint, with this criteria, nothing. So Becky, you want to make an argument for Becky? I could see Becky. I almost voted for Becky. But at the end of the day, I didn't think she was one of the 50 best wrestlers in the world.
No.
But I liked what she did, particularly on the back end of the year. But she wasn't one of the 50 best. I can't justify that. When I'm leaving off people like Hechicero and Yuji Nagata, like I left those people off. I left Eddie Kingston off. I left Orange Cassidy off my list. I'm going to put Becky on. So, 50 is not a lot. That's the other thing.
Yeah, like you said, Satoshi Kojima not making it seems tough to then argue for Carmelo Hayes and Seth freaking Rollins. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I mean, people think it's like, but you try plotting out 50. You use up the spots really quick. It's really not a lot of wrestlers when you're talking about 50.
Because there's shoo-ins, and once you get done with your shoo-ins, you don't have a whole lot of left to go. Trust me. I had that same thing. I was like, fuck. I'm already... Shit, I used 20 people already, and these are like the ones that were like, yeah, duh, these are the top 20 guys for me. It's quick.
Yeah, so now that I'm talking myself through it, I don't know that the WWE got shortchanged. I don't know if that's even true. So I don't know. The point is Gunther had to be on it. You couldn't get, and he did well, and at that point it's guys that just didn't have enough volume. But no, this was I really thought I was so pleased with how it came out. I really think this was the best one yet. We've got a nice mix on the panel, I think, where everything gets represented in the proper proportion. And this is where I'm going to pat ourselves on the back. This is where we need to exist and do things like this because no one's doing shit like this anymore. It is increasingly becoming where no one is doing shit like this anymore and viewing wrestling through the kind of lens that we view it. And we used to be one of many, and it just isn't that way anymore. These kind of things have all become super mainstream and WWE/AEW focused. If you look at Sports Illustrated, or you look at Pro Wrestling Illustrated and their awards that recently came out, or you look at the Fightful Award nominees, and
hell, look at the Wrestling Observer Awards. I mean, that's going to be dominated by WWE and AEW up and down the board.
And when applicable, those places should win things. There's no doubt about it, and they should get recognized. But you bring up a guy like Fuminari Abe, who was arguably in the best tag team in the world this year. And had singles matches to go along with it. And, they just, like the DVDVR used to put out their top 500 every year. And no one's doing this kind of thing anymore. It's just us. And I think it's important to have this kind of diverse representation and say, oh, no. You guys get everything else. This is a list of wrestlers. Okay, so this is why we do things like this. And this is why, our match of the year, we try to do it a little different and do it with media only. So it's just not another fan list. It's going to get inundated with the same, that all these other, so I think it's an important that, I know a lot of people have their opinions on us and everything, but I really think we do something important that needs to exist when it comes to things like this. Find me another list like this that doesn't have Seth Rollins on it. And it's not spiteful to keep Seth Rollins off. It's to say, no, there's the kind of fan who doesn't think Seth Rollins is great.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you why. We can back it up.
Right.
Okay. And we can tell you why Teton was great this year. So,
and why Fuminori Abe deserves to be in the top 10 of a list, and why Kenta Miyahara was challenging for a top spot and had to settle for third. Yume Oyagi, fifth, top 5 wrestler in the world.
And I've been critical of it in the past. I didn't think last year's was good. I was a little embarrassed of last year's, if I'm being completely honest. I didn't think it was good at all. And it's no one's fault. It's how it came out of the wash. You know what I mean? It's just, but this year's I'm really proud of. And, and again, everyone listening will have their nitpicks and can probably make valid arguments as to why someone.
That's good. That's helpful.
That is good. You could probably make valid arguments why someone belongs or someone doesn't belong. And that's, because no list is ever going to be perfect or flawless or anything like that. It's hard. It's not easy. So anyway, I thought it was a really good list this year.
So that's available again, voicesofwrestling.com. We're also in the midst of our match of the year voting going on right now, and that list will start dropping next week as well. So if you are listening to this and you're a wrestling media member, time is running out. If you have a ballot, you need to have your ballot submitted to us by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. No late ballots or anything, because then we start counting stuff almost immediately after that. If you do not have a ballot and you're a wrestling media member, a blogger, a podcaster, whatever, and you want a ballot, definitely reach out to us as soon as possible so we can get you a ballot and get you voted in there. And yeah, the only prerequisite is that you're a wrestling media member, but other than that, doesn't matter what type of wrestling you like. It doesn't. You got to be in the wrestling media, and then you can vote. And I'm really happy with how the list looks right now. We'll see what the final result comes in, but it's a lot of the same stuff that we just talked about with the FSM 50, where not a lot of match. There's tippy top matches that would appear on a lot of other match of the year lists and top matches of the year's list or whatever, but there's a lot of matches that would not, and I think I really like that. In the top 10, there's a couple of matches that I'm confident you are not going to find in a lot of other countdowns, and get to the top 50, and it gets pretty wild, and in a good way. Very, very diverse. So very happy with how that's turned out so far. So we'll see how that ends up shaking out with a couple days left to go in the voting. So Joe, we are a little out of time, but I do want to get to these last few topics. It's up to you. Do you want to hold these off for another week?
No, let's do these 3 matches. We can talk about these 3 matches very quickly.
They're quick. So they're quick. So you're getting some bonus audio here. Not enough for a full overrun, so you're just going to get bonus audio and enjoy it.
No, I think this is all we have left. So we can get through these. So it was the first week in Japan, obviously. So all the promotions are having their big shows. The big main event on the Big Japan Korakuen show, which drew, I think, 600 and something fans. So, Big Japan still chugging along. Yuya Aoki, who's had a nice title run, defended his title against Leighton Buzzard, who has come up on the flagship a bit over the last year or so. They went 22 minutes, almost 23 minutes for the Big Japan Strong title. This match is getting some buzz. I didn't love it. I thought it was a little excessive. They did a little too much, and there wasn't a ton of connective tissue to it. It felt more like, I don't want to say 2 guys taking turns doing things, because then it makes it sound like a spot fest, which it wasn't. It was just, they went for an epic, and it just didn't connect for me, and it didn't land. And I don't think it was like 2 guys wrestling almost 2 different matches and both trying to have an epic world title match and not having the same ideas. And I don't know, it just didn't feel like a cohesive match to me. I guess that was my biggest problem with it. I thought they worked hard, and it just didn't work for me.
I think I liked it a little bit better than you, and I don't think it's incredible. I've seen a lot of people say like 10 out of 10, 5 stars. I don't think it's that level, but I do think I liked it a little bit more. I think that you're right that they went for the epic and they probably didn't get to the epic, and I don't know that Leighton Buzz, I don't know if either of these guys are quite ready for that kind of epic match or whatever, but what I will say is, though, there was a lot of really good effort. I liked the story of the match. I liked that the first couple, 10 minutes or so were were pretty slow moving, a little like, lightly paced. It was kind of settling in for a big time main event. And then, like you said, the point came where they just started slapping each other, kicking each other, dropping each other on their heads, that sort of stuff, headbutts, and just kind of, went through that period for the last couple minutes. And I don't know, I ended up kind of liking it at the end. With that said, I'm probably like 4.25 stars. So it's not, it's a match that I like. It's a match that's going to go in the notebook, but not one that I think is like a match of the year contender, or anything like near there or anywhere near flirting with 5 stars. But I think if you haven't watched Big Japan in a while, or what I'll say more than anything is if you don't know the two guys we're talking about, if you've never heard of Aoki and you've never heard of Buzzard, and you're kind of curious what the deal is with these guys, I think this is a good introduction to both these guys. And Buzzard is a guy that you kind of put me onto a couple of months ago, and I went and watched a lot of his stuff, and I really, really like him. I think that there's a lot of potential there. He's still very young, if I remember correctly. I forget how old he is, but he is still shockingly young, and he's starting to get it in terms of a lot of the other aspects of wrestling, in terms of no, he's 26 years old. Damn, yeah. So he's getting better, and you could see his confidence growing, and he's got a good kind of chicken shit look to him. He's got the mullet. He's good at facials. He's got a lot of that stuff going for him. So I would say, yeah, don't go into this match expecting to see one of the best matches of the year, but go in watching two guys that I looked up. Yuya Aoki, he's 27 as well. So you're going in watching two guys that are still in their mid to late 20s or whatever, that are, at the top of Big Japan, at the top of that, kind of whatever tier you want to call the Big Japan 0-1 tier of Japanese wrestling. They're kind of there. But yeah, I think Buzzard's solid. I think Aoki's solid. But yeah, I would say go in with that expectation that, hey, this is just a solid match, not necessarily a match of the year contender, or one of the best matches you'll see this year. I don't think it was that, but I did enjoy it, and I am interested in seeing more Buzzard and more Aoki moving forward.
Cage Match loves it. They've got it at 8.6 right now, and I understand why. It just, man, I don't know. It just the match just kept losing me. I couldn't invest in it for whatever reason. Aoki has had a nice title reign, though. I've seen a number of these matches that he's had since he won the title from Okabayashi, who retired last year in the middle of the year, and still made the list, right? The FSM 50. I think he still made it despite because
where was he?
Okabayashi, he was great.
39.
He was so good the first half of the year.
Yeah.
It's like when I was looking over I was like, I have to have him on my 50. I can't not have him because he was so great the first half of the year. But yeah, Aoki's had a nice title reign. Look, I didn't think it was a bad match. It just didn't hit that next gear for me. Of the 3 matches that we're going to talk about, it was by far my least favorite. The next was from Osaka Pro, where Billy Kid, who has announced his retirement, I don't know when he's officially retiring, but he challenged for the Osaka light heavyweight title, which is a new title that they rolled out during the new Zeus-owned era of the company. Zeus left All Japan. He bought Osaka Pro. We talked about that a little bit last year. He's the owner of the company. He's running it. And they rolled out a light heavyweight title that Tiger's Mask held for like forever. I actually watched.
Oh, that's right. He had that thing for like 500 days or something like that.
Yeah, because I clicked the wrong link today, and I watched this Matsufusa, this Ryuya Matsufusa, who wrestled Billy Kid. I watched the match where he beat Tiger's Mask for this light heavyweight title.
How was that?
That was actually, it was pretty good. I mean, this Matsufusa has some potential. I mean, he's a nice little wrestler.
25 years old for him.
Yeah. So he wins the title. He ends Tiger's Mask's long reign as the first title holder of this thing. And he's defending against Billy Kid, who is retiring this year. If you're a long-time Flagship listener, we used to talk about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Partially as a meme, but not really. Like, we're Billy Kid fans.
No, we're supporters. Yeah, like, I just don't watch a lot of his matches because, like, a lot of it's in these, like, very weird promotions that, look, if I had nothing else to do all day and really wanted to, I'd muck it up and watch Heat Up and all this stuff. But more times than not, I'm not watching Osaka Pro. I'm not watching Heat Up. I'm not watching the places that he works. But every time I watch this guy, I fucking enjoy him. And we always would occasionally, like, once every 3 years, watch a Billy Kid match and be like, God damn, Billy Kid rocks. He just rules. And I'm glad we did, because this, yeah.
The other problem is Osaka Pro was going to die. Zeus saved it. Let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, they weren't making tape anymore. Barely ever running shows. and he got them back on TV at a 30-minute show. Now it's an hour. The show's an hour now, like most of the time that it airs. And he's got them, I don't want to use the word hot, but he's got them hotter than they've been in years.
They're not on death's door like it felt like they were. I mean, not like they felt like they were. They were on death's door. These shows have more energy than they've had in a long time. And it's the old crew, your Billy Ken Kids, your Black Buffaloes, your Tiger's Mask. But you throw in Zeus, and he brings Quiet Storm with him. Zeus and Quiet Storm have been feuding over, their version of the world title. He's brought the Bodyguard in because I don't think Kolega. I think is RIP. I don't think Kolega's still running anymore. So.
Right, and the Bodyguard was running Kolega at one point, and Zeus was running Osaka Pro. But now that Kolega is out, because I really don't.
Yeah, their last show was November 2022, so they're done.
Yeah, they're done, and they've been done. And now, the Bodyguard pops up. And because for people who don't know, Zeus was with Osaka Pro at the beginning of his career. And then he went to All Japan. He became a Triple Crown champion. So he comes back and buys the company, and he's running it now. And they're doing much better than they were before. And Billy Ken Kid, circling back to this match, he will retire later this year. And he, used to have the tag team with Tsubasa. And we used to, like me and you were Billy Ken Kid and Tsubasa back in the
love that.
early days of the Flagship, and we'd post a picture, new Flagship coming, the picture of Billy Ken Kid and Tsubasa,
with their arms crossed.
With their arms crossed, for people who might remember that. But yeah, so anyway, that's the story. You have the old veteran. He's got to be in his 50s at this. He's 50 years old.
He was 50 on the dot.
Going for this light heavyweight title. He's been in Osaka Pro his whole life, and this Matsufasa, and I enjoyed the hell out of this. And you could hear the women squealing for Billy Ken Kid in the crowd. The fans wanted him to win this thing. And the young guy held him off, and he retained the title. This is just a classic pro wrestling story. And Billy Ken Kid, just every time you watch, he's just solid as fuck. Just a solid as fuck wrestler who spent his whole career predominantly in Osaka Pro and places like it. Tiny. I'm sure he's had a day job all these years and hasn't been a full-time wrestler, but this is just a pro's pro, and, comes from a lucha background. So he's got a little lucharisu, in the mix there, like a lot of the Osaka guys. And I just enjoyed the hell out of this. And, I don't know when they're going to do his retirement match or whatever, but hopefully, the Tsubasas and the Black Buffaloes will be involved, and I'll be all over that. But what'd you think of it?
No, I liked it as well. It may be a little too long, about 33 minutes. So it did maybe go a little more than I needed, but really good. I thought the selling was great. It played off perfectly. So you have the young kid here and the old guy, the veteran or whatever. And the veteran is just the smarter pro wrestler. The young kid's bouncing around, jumping around, flying around, doing all of his big spots or whatever. And the veteran's just like, yeah, I'm just going to work you over to the point where by the end of the match, Ryuya, he can't use his leg. He can't even stand on his leg. And Billy Kid's like, all right, my plan worked. I was going to let you tucker yourself out and fly all over and do all the big spots. And then 20 minutes into the match, you're not going to be able to use your leg. And then I'm going to have you for the taking. And that's kind of where you thought this match was going to go. But then, they obviously had then the flip side of that, the young kid firing up and firing through the pain and getting the fans on his side. Yes, they're rallying behind him. Like you said, the women squealing for the young kid to get through. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can push through the pain and push through the pain and push through the pain. And then he does. And yeah, I thought the final comeback was solid. And yeah, it's not. I think it's probably. I probably liked it about the same as I liked the Leighton Buzzard Aoki. I'm probably 4.25 on both of those.
Different kind of match, though.
Totally different kind of match. And that was going to be my point. Is that's what's cool about this is like you're seeing two entirely different matches. And what's cool about this one is this is available on their YouTube channel as well. Now I don't know how much they're uploading, but I know I'm subscribed now to Osaka Pro's YouTube, and I'll keep an eye on it moving forward. But this match you can watch for free on their YouTube page. We'll try to put a link in the show notes, but if not, just try to find Osaka Pro on YouTube and you'll find it. If you go to Cage Match, I think this show is actually linked on Cage Match as well. But this was a really, really fun match. Go out of your way to check it out, and a good sell match, and if you've never seen Billy Ken Kid before, I don't know how much more. I don't know how many more opportunities you're going to have to see him, but he's a guy that probably should be more well known than he is. But as a result of kind of sticking around and being loyal, he's known by the hardcores, but most people listen to this have probably never seen a Billy Ken Kid match, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it's and their latest TV has the title change where this kid won the title from Tiger's Mask. That's an upload that's floating around if you know the places to look. And it has I believe a Zeus Quiet Storm match from the recent tournament that they held. They call it the Tenozan tournament. I think that's the other match on the most current TV. And then, like Rich said, this is a free upload on their YouTube for their most recent show, which was on the 7th of January, which is where this match took place. It was the main event. 300 people in Osaka for this one. Lively. It was very lively, lively than Osaka, Pro, has been in a while, and like I said, I watched some of the other show too, and it's just, it feels far more vibrant than it was when it was about to die. And there was a third match.
Show. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was very.
Oh, you watched the whole
YouTube upload. Yeah. And it's like, not anything else that you can.
What was it? The whole show from the 7th?
Yes.
It's just a full upload of the show from
just the entire show. It's a whole New Year's special is up there.
Okay. Yeah.
It's about 2 hours long. There's a little bit that you can skip because a lot of it is the intro where they introduce the year and kind of say, hey, thank you. And they're all wearing their tracksuits.
Bring out the roster and all that.
Yeah, the whole roster comes out in their tracksuits or whatever. You don't have to watch that. And you could probably skip. I mean, well, no, because you like Black Buffalo, so you got to watch that match.
I like Black Buffalo. Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I watched
that. Yeah, but on the other side is Ebasan and
yeah,
Kushinobu came in, so it's probably all comedy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You could probably skip that one if you really must.
But that's Osaka Pro. I mean, that comes with the territory.
Right.
You just, it's I don't even know the best way. Japanese Chikara. I don't even know if that's fair. But,
I think my favorite result of that entire show, though, was the Rogue Nation with Goliath, Quiet Storm, and Toru versus Arez, Tiger's Mask, and Zeus. Went to a no contest. No one's doing the JOB in the semi-main.
Well, Quiet Storm, I don't know in this match, but he's got
a big-time gleader, yeah.
He's got a new look.
Yeah.
At least in this company, he wears, like, face paint. And, Toru is a classic scummer who's been floating around. But, that's the big feud has been Zeus and Quiet Storm on the top of the card. But anyway, the third match that we watched that was getting some buzz this week was back in CMLL. It was Mascara Dorada and Templario, main event of the January 5th Arena Mexico Friday night show. Man, I was prepared to come on here and bury the match because I thought that the second fall finish was an absolute mess because Templario can be sloppy sometimes. He doesn't have the smoothness.
There was a lot of sloppiness.
Of Soberano Jr. That's a problem for him. He's not as smooth as Soberano Jr. or some of these other guys. Templario can be a little messy. And Mascara Dorada, this is the new Mascara Dorada, I'm not as crazy about him as everybody else is. I like him.
Flippy. He's very flippy, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just kind of jumping around and doing stuff.
Look, the guy's got incredible potential. I'm just not as high on him yet as others are. And I really wasn't feeling this match through the second fall because the first fall was just a generic Arena Mexico first fall, and the second fall was sloppy as hell, especially the finish. But this third fall kicked so much ass and built so much drama and had Arena Mexico because what they did was a shit ton of near falls, and they don't do a shit ton of near falls in Arena Mexico.
No, very rarely.
So when you have a match that has a bunch of near falls like this, the fans just go ape shit, and it adds so much to the atmosphere, and it lifts the match so much because I'm not going to say they never do, the big Japanese constant near fall style, but it's rare, and it's usually saved for a big main event singles match like this, and they did it here. And I thought that these two guys had an excellent third fall, which really saved the match. I wouldn't put it in the upper echelon of great CMLL Arena Mexico singles main events that we've seen over the last year or so, but I'd put it on the lower end of those, but it was still very enjoyable. And I think it will give you a decent taste of what Dorada and Templario are all about, especially the third fall.
Yeah, I kind of agree with most of that. I was watching this match for the first 2/3, like you said, the first 2 falls basically. And people were hyping this matchup a lot. And I was like, dude, I don't know if I get this. I mean, they're kind of fucking around. They're sloppy. The spots are kind of not going anywhere. And I'm like, this match is way overrated, man. This is anywhere near what I thought I was going to see here. And then the third fall is, as you said, spectacular. It's a great, great third fall. And I could see some people, Dorado and Templario do a lot of kind of the modern luchador high flyer stuff where they're bouncing all over the ropes and doing stuff that does feel very choreographed, but you know what? That's fucking lucha. You know what I mean? Like, you know, a lot of lucha is that. A lot of high flying lucha has that sort of element to it. So I get how that, you know, especially with Dorada, he does a lot of it. And you know, that might bother some people, but I don't really care that much. I think when you do it to a ridiculous level like Vikingo does sometimes or Commander does sometimes, it does kind of wear thin, but I don't think that's the case with this third fall. I think anybody should probably find something to like out of this. And more than anything, just the Arena Mexico crowd going nuts. These guys are doing flips and dives and bouncing all over the ropes and just doing some pretty incredible stuff. And like you said, having that third fall really feel like it had a lot of meaning, and the fans not knowing who the hell was going to win this match, and the back and forth and all sort of stuff. So yeah, I thought to the end, great. And the finish, I mean, that shooting star press is just a thing of fucking beauty, man.
Yeah, they did stuff in the third fall that's normally a finish, but they were near falls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And because a lot of times in CMLL, the finishes are very definitive. I mean, you know when, okay, that's the finish. This match is over. And there were a couple different moments in this third fall that felt like that, but then they weren't. And then they kept cutting to the crowd, and people are just losing their fucking minds over these near falls. Because again, it's not something that's overdone in that building in terms of the near falls. So, yeah, CMLL is off to a good start again. I mean, you know, they had a great year. And you know, sometimes these things can be fleeting, and every year is a new page. But you know, they're off to another good start. You know, Sobrano Jr. is going to be in New Japan more this year, but they keep coming up with the new crops. You know, this Futuro and Neon, these two guys. I mean, you know, the people who watch every week already know, but some of our listeners who maybe just keep one eye on CMLL, I mean, remember those names. Those are part of the next wave, you know, and maybe Zandokan Jr. continues his breakout this year. And they've got the two Viano Three Sons are together, you know, in the tag team now, and they team with Zandokan a lot. And, you know, maybe this will be a big year for them. And, you know, they just, what you see with CMLL is it's not just a select group of top guys having great matches that happen to be hot right now. They keep adding to the mix.
Yeah, every time you go to that undercard, there's like 4 or 5 new guys every time.
They're making new guys.
Who are these guys? What the hell?
You know, 3 or 4 different guys emerged like this Mascara Dorada did last year, and they keep restocking the pond with new guys underneath the last batch of new guys, so they could absorb the loss of a Soberano Jr. if he's not around so much next year, because they constantly are putting new people, featuring new people in Arena Mexico, and they're getting over, you know, and it's healthy right now. It's healthy. It's not just 4 or 5 veterans who happen to be in hot programs, and then when that peters out, they're not doing anything underneath. And we've all seen that a million times in a million different promotions, and you know it's going to be short-lived. That's not what's happening here. Okay? They're doing a great job, and this isn't always the case with CMLL historically, but they're doing a great job making sure to constantly get fresh faces in the mix, and it's good to see.
So there you go. That was the show, like we said, from the 5th, and that one is available by means Lucha Blog. Follow them on Twitter. Follow Cubs Fan on Twitter.
Yeah, the link is right in his.
It's not very hard to find, but
yeah,
it would find it. But yeah, I would say if you want to follow CML, that's a good account to follow. LuchaBlog.com. Follow the Cubs Fan. They can find a lot of good stuff on there. But yep, that's it for the show. We are way over time. So that is it for us. Thank you for sticking with us during the breaking news as we were trying to kind of figure out the Okada news. I'm sure we'll have more about that next week on the show. Next week, we're also going to do our preview for Royal Rumble because we're going to do Instant Reaction Live for the Royal Rumble. So a lot going on next week as well. So make sure you're you're tuning in. Listen to us each week here on the Flagship. So that is it for us. VoicesOfWrestling.com is where you can get the FSM 50, as well as previews, reviews, and columns about the world of wrestling. VoicesOfWrestling.com/Discord if you want to join the conversation on our Discord, and Voice Wrestling Podcast Network on your podcast app of choice. All right, so that is it for us. That is Joe. I'm Rich. We will talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and 01. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.